Welcome, friends and fiends. Newcomers, oldcomers, come one, come all, welcome to another RedDeathMask stream. Today, your teacher broke their leg, or at least my teacher broke their leg. They're out of town. Whatever, they called in sick. It's a substitute teacher day, and what that means is I don't have to read. We don't have to read, at least for the most part. We get to watch is maybe a loose term. We get to listen to a story. We get to hear a book on tape rather than have to read it ourselves, and that is always so much fun, and I'm just excited. I've been giddy for this stream kind of all week because we get to dive into the North American Pantheon, which is a series also referred to as the Fuck HIPAA series. So shout out Dopabeane, the author. They're really cool. They've written a lot of great stuff, but this is maybe their most popular series, and it is currently being made into a audio series on YouTube called the North American Pantheon. Go subscribe to it, follow it on Reddit, like the videos, share the videos. It is an incredible series that we'll be diving into today, but I don't need to talk it up because we're going to be listening to it and you'll see for yourselves. But it's a series that I've really just gotten into. I'm new to it. Here, I wanted to show the master story list just as a way of showing, these are all the parts, and there are a lot of them. As well as like the employee handbook and, I think even other, what do you want to call it? Associated stories and stuff, greater lore building stuff. I'm not 100% sure what all there is, but it's a really cool series. It's a very unique series. We're gonna get into just why and what I think kind of sets it apart from maybe like other, like an SCP style or other just like multi serial horror projects where like it's different monsters, it's different, even like an X-Files, what sets it apart from like a show like the X-Files, so to speak, because I believe it does set itself apart, and I believe in a good way, and I believe it, I know it might sound kind of bold because it's just an audio series right now, but I do hold it in that high of esteem because in my opinion it's just so much fun, so anyways, that is what we're gonna do today. Get excited. We get a pizza party, we get to eat pizza and drink sody pops and listen to a really awesome story. So I'm stoked. I hope you are all stoked as well. And yeah, and that is what I have for the intro. Go support Dopabeane Substack. X-Files is peak. Exactly, Harvey. Support Dopabeane Substack because I don't know, they've had some issues with Reddit. I think I mean Reddit can be a shit show for a lot of different reasons, but this is their Substack. Go subscribe, support them on Patreon, stuff like that. Is a way that you can support them because despite the series gaining popularity on Reddit, a lot of it has, I think, been removed from Reddit or, whatever, because people are dicks and stupid. And so, yeah, I don't even know what happened, but I think people just were like, we don't like the author, so we're going to report these stories that don't even have you know, you could dislike somebody, but you don't need to report their art that has nothing to do, like, you know, with your gripes with them. But anyways, doesn't matter. I don't want to get into that. That's not why we're here. We're here to enjoy a story. But first, I want to set the mood. I want to get a little pumped up. One of the best ways I know to do that is with music. And I want to do that before we start the stories because I don't know if this song will get claimed, but this is something that I just recently found out about, this band, this song, and me and my wife were just laughing a bunch about it, and we've been listening to it all week, and I don't have anywhere to talk about it or anywhere to share it, so I'm going to share it with you guys here. So this is, without any further ado, this is the Fugs, Coca-Cola Douche.
Dedicated to Joan Crawford. It's in the key. This song is dedicated to Joan Crawford. It's in the key of wash it out, freak it out, zap it out, hook it out, slurp it out, slurp it out, munch it out, punch it out, scrunch it out, and hunch it out, and keep it fragrantly, slurpingly, slarfingly, anteater, tongueably, clean, 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 clean. Clean for the old rope chortle. Rope chortle. Coca-Cola douche.
It's Frozen.
My baby ain't got no money, but her snatch it'll taste like a honey, 'cause she makes that Coca-Cola douche. My baby, she fizzes and she buzzes, but her pussy it snaps like a turtle, 'cause she makes that
Coca-Cola douche.
My baby is straight from heaven. My baby you can sip with a straw, 'cause she makes that Coca-Cola douche. Baby, she humps like a wildcat. Her pelvis got the caffeine shakes, 'cause she makes that
Coca-Cola douche.
My baby, send me out for some ice cream. Come on down for an ice cream soda. I just had that Coca-Cola douche. Oh, Joan Crawford.
Oh, Joan Crawford.
We'll get a split label house. We'll live out in Scarsdale on Red's House Apes. We'll have twin Hondas and we'll go on scrambles on Sunday. On Saturday afternoon we'll visit the skeet shoot together. Oh, we'll never tell anybody about our secret fetish. Coca-Cola. Oh, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola poured all over the buns. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. Oh, I love it. Pouring down my leg. Pouring in my armpit. Pouring in my apertures.
Okay. And that was Coca-Cola douche. Great song. Don't know why it's not more popular. Can't tell you why it never rose to full popularity. But yeah, that was hilarious, and we've been laughing about it all week. And I told myself I was gonna start my stream with that song and a Coca-Cola. So here we are, folks. But yeah, we found it. We were kind of talking about it, and we found it so funny that like we tend to think about different, you know, times in history as like more subdued, right? Culturally, sexually, whatever you want to call it, you know, and then that's why like the free love period of like the 60s and 70s was such a big explosion for people. And while it was, I was like, I kind of made the point that I was like, but there's always got to be that one in every city, in every town, there's always going to be that one underground club, whatever place where the counterculture exists, where the music that is seen as not presentable for like decent society, you know, where that is. And in those places you get songs like, you know, the Fugs playing Coca-Cola Douche, and just how, you know, that's always existed throughout time. But then because of American idealism, we've told ourselves that, it had, you know, during the 50s, there wasn't anybody like that. You know, there wasn't X or Y or Z. And it's like, no, evil has existed for a long time. Not just evil. I'm not saying that song is evil. I love that song. I'm just saying that depravity or things that are seen as less, you know, more unseemly have always existed. And I think to relate it to North American Pantheon, even though it has nothing to do with it, I think North American Pantheon does a good job, because a lot of the stories, these beings that exist in this series are beings that exist over a lot of years. And so the series does a good kind of job, I feel like, of showing how, even though like society may have changed or gotten like more woke or whatever, it's like they haven't changed, but also they're not necessarily the most horrific people in the series. A lot of times these monsters have a good reason for doing what they do, even if it, you know, becomes a misguided hatred later on. You know, they started off just trying to protect somebody that they loved, or, you know, and so I think that yeah, it's interesting when we look through history with rose-colored goggles, and or rose-colored glasses, or whatever they say, and then we have a series like this that kind of like peels those glasses off, and you go like, oh fuck, everything's always been just as fucked up as it is now, if not more so, you know. And it's kind of cool. But anyways, that's I won't try to relate it to it too much. It was just something I've been thinking about a lot lately because of this series, and then that song too brought it up kind of in a different way. But so basically we are going to start with the first episode, which is Numa. But I did want to, we've already watched this on my stream, Meet Our Inmate Salua. I did want to kind of briefly go through it because it has an interview at the end, and I just want to make sure that there's no kind of information that's vital in this that we missed. But it does kind of explain the history of the Society of Helping Hands, which I feel like is beneficial for people just going into the series. And so let's just get into it. Let's watch the whole trailer, because it really is a great trailer too. And then we're going to get into the first episode. So I'm just going to play I'm not going to pause the trailer. I'm going to play it all from start to finish. Here, I'm going to switch my screen real quick. There we go. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you check 1 2 on the mic? 1 2. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Let's get into it. This is the North American Pantheon. Please, again, I'll say it multiple times, go subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube. It's not only are they just, is it a great story, but these are amazing audio performances. They're creating a full audio series out of it. It's not just one person doing the whole, audiobook. It's an audio series with a really talented cast of people. So go subscribe or else. Okay? God. Stumbled on a mass grave near the nomadic Bedouin camp in the Judean desert. When they exhumed the grave, they saw that every corpse was fresh and belonged to either a man or a boy. And immediately saw that the Bedouins were preparing to leave. They also saw that everyone in camp was either a little girl or a woman. So sorry, I know I said I wasn't going to pause. I lied. Just briefly, because I didn't read the first part. Basically, all these troops show up in, I think what it said was like Palestine or somewhere in the Middle East. And like British soldiers, they come upon this mass grave of slaughtered men, and then they find the women that would have been, these men and women would have been in the same tribe, and all these women, their camp, they're preparing to leave. So it kind of sets the stage that like these soldiers show up, clearly some big kind of atrocity has happened, but they don't know who's responsible, and they're, I think because it was their territory at the time, the British, it's like their mandate is like, they're going to have to figure out what happened, and so that's kind of just setting the stage. And all these and this is something that I think was done so well for the trailer that they can't do because later it's just an audio series, but it really just sets this mood of like historical horror, fiction, but whatever they call it, where it's like unfiction, where it is fiction, but at the same time it seems so tied in with historical events that it's like it could be this separate, almost like a conspiratorial history that we don't know about, but that we're getting the veils being pulled back on. So it does such a good job. If this was just all that there was of the series, I would still really, really like it. But obviously we have more to watch, thank God. Separate tribes. The soldiers demanded an explanation for the grave. The women explained they were refugees fleeing the political violence of the Great Revolt and were fleeing again because a demon had come in the night and slaughtered all of their men. Soldiers didn't believe them. They believed the women were lying and that they had killed their own brothers, fathers, husbands, sons, even their own infants. And blamed an imaginary demon for their unspeakable evil. As punishment, the soldiers decided upon execution, so they bound and blindfolded every woman and girl in the camp, lined them up, and raised their rifles. But before anyone could pull the trigger, and this is kind of what I mean by the entities in this series are so interesting, because like the demon had already killed all these men and was like nowhere to be found. But then this happens. It's like, it is interesting, right? It's like, it's almost like the demon didn't want the women to die, or because it only takes men, it couldn't have innocent women being killed for a crime it committed, because its whole mandate is to like just kill any male human, whether that is a little baby or a grown man, The demon found them. 12 soldiers entered the camp that day. 2 came out. One survivor described the killer as a demon with the face of a wolf. The other described her as a jinn. The Bedouins had another name for her. Salua. Salua, noun, definition, an ancient demon from Bedouin folklore known for slaughtering men, boys, and male infants. It's an apt description. Survivors managed to capture one photograph of Salua, I think. Of Salua before she attacked. So this is her gearing up to rip throats out, which, again, amazing picture. I don't know who did this, but it is great. And I think it really I want to make sure people can see it. So yeah. I popped it out. But I think great like sort of ARG analog horror elements in this in terms of this old-timey photograph look. But man, could you imagine just being like whatever, a green soldier like on your first deployment, and you're like out in the desert, and there's like an interpreter or somebody's like talking with this tribe of people about this mass grave, and then you're getting ready to shoot all of these women and children, which already like crazy. They're like, oh, you're all complicit. Because I get it that all the men and women and babies were dead, and that was horrible. But to just be like, so all the survivors are guilty is just equally as horrible to me. And it just goes to show that like one atrocity can just beget like another atrocity, and kind of how silly the human systems and bureaucracies are at dealing with stuff like this. They're like, well, we found this mass grave, so now we got to make another mass grave. Just crazy. But anyways, amazing picture. So good. I hope in the future, not that the series needs to do this, because I think it does a really good job with just the audio performances and painting a picture and giving the characters like texture and making them realized. I do hope, though, like as it goes on, maybe we get just some more single still images like this, whether it's of like Kristoff or, I don't know who all, I don't know all the characters I want to say yet, because we'll get into it as the series goes on. But yeah, I do think that it can help the series flourish, because I love the logo of the Agency of Helping Hands and stuff, but I also think that just having an image of a monster like this can really at least in early creepypasta days, it did everything. Russian Sleep Experiment, Jeff the Killer, yeah, those are kind of shittier stories, but those images did so much heavy lifting for it. And this, to me, is another great image to where I'm like, you don't even need to read any of what we just read or hear any of that part. Like, that part's amazing, and it is the story, but this image does so much. It's so good. The agency immediately dispatched a containment team. So now, and I know it says it in the logo and on the video, so we'll get into it. But basically, the agency deals with things like this. And so it was only once these two survivors made it out that then the agency got contacted, because they're like, yeah, we actually have a real fucking demon out here in the desert of Palestine or wherever, who after many weeks and at great cost, including the lives of personnel and innocent civilians alike, finally caught Salua. Upon capture, and this is one thing that I like just about this trailer, and if we ever got a Salua full episode, it would have something like this. Those soldiers freaking like kidnapped a baby boy or did something crazy where they had to like lay a trap with live bait, so to speak. And I mean, as far as we know, the thing can basically teleport. I mean, it says that she found them in the desert when they were about to shoot all the women. It doesn't say quite how, but we have to assume, I mean, it's a giant wolf woman creature thing. So it's like, I have to assume it can pretty much do, move incredibly fast or straight up teleport. And so for them to catch it, I have to imagine like the human cost was really high, but that human cost was so high because I'm guessing the agency had to do some pretty fucked up things in order to bait her, so to speak. Upon capture, Salua proudly admitted to decades of horrific crimes, including kidnapping, murder, infanticide, and cannibalism. Awesome. Because I wanted to. In the interest of public safety, agency personnel tried to terminate Salua using every method available. And this is one thing we'll get into more in the series, and even with the like human rights issues the series kind of has in the background. So they find these entities, and the thing is, usually the entities that are in the Pantheon aren't just the entities that they captured. Like, sure, some they were able to just capture and they're in the facility so they don't hurt anyone, but most of the entities in the North American Pantheon are ones that they couldn't kill, because usually they do something like this, they're a danger to the public, and so they try to terminate them, but they can't because they're fucking mortal demon, they're gods, or there's a reason it's called like the Pantheon and not the North American Hell, is because like a lot of these creatures, although they do evil things, their powers are more in line with like godlike. It doesn't, or at least like angel or demon, it doesn't quite make sense to just call them a monster, because like a monster, even like a werewolf, implies like flesh and bone. It's a person who transforms, maybe they have some superhuman like strength and other qualities, but they also have a silver bullet, right? They have something that is known to take them out or to hurt them or kill them. Most of the creatures in the Pantheon, and the agency tries, they want to know what can hurt like beings and what can be used. And they're tight-lipped about the things that they do have or whatever, but yeah, it's very clear that like most of the things in there are things that can't be killed. But she survived everything they did to her. No other option, Salua was brought to the Agency of Helping Hands North American Special Containment Unit, where she remains to this day. Which, that's the most recent name for the NASCU or whatever they call it. But the common name, what people just call it, is the Pantheon, or the North American Pantheon is the most common name that like people within the Agency of Helping Hands refer to it as.
Do you know why you're here, Salua?
When I was a child, my
father kept me locked in his cellar until he grew tired of me. Then he beat me to death and threw my body to the wolves.
Why did he do that to you?
Because I was a disobedient daughter. He thought that was the
Let me know if anyone in the chat, if anyone is in the chat, if it's not loud enough, I can turn it up, or I can turn it up on OBS. But I can hear it. I think it's loud enough, but just let me know.
worst thing a girl can be.
Do you understand why you're here now?
Because you know I'm the worst thing a woman can be.
Is one of nearly 5,000 inmates currently incarcerated. North American Special Containment Unit is a 1,000-unit incarceration facility designed to hold entities like Salua, whose existence presents a grave and immediate threat to human beings. It's the largest penitentiary of its kind in the world, and the only only incarceration solution for entities like Salua. Without Salua's and others like her would be roaming free without the agency of helping hands, and people just like you would be helpless. This is because and this is where we get into the sense that, like, this is agency propaganda. Even this video, this is because it's the only institution standing between humanity, powerful inhuman beings intent on destruction. Recent funding cuts. The agency of helping hands is in danger, but you don't have to be. Reach out and show you how to lend a helping hand. So we can go to that site too, the www.northamericanpantheon.com. It might have all the stories too if you just want to read it. But I think I did visit. I'm pretty sure it's a real site. Yeah. So yeah, you can learn more. Special Containment Unit, newsletter, follow, Patreon, contact us. Report, this is so cool. Report an entity sighting. Do you have a tip? I wonder what dig is. Information, reach out to our administrative coordinator and we will respond within 1 to 2 within 1 business day for sightings, 2 business days for tips, and 3 business days for staffing inquiries. That's so awesome. The Monster Asylum, the Zoo, Supermax Prison for Monsters. So cool. Love it. I mean, it's simple site. Yeah, I was going to say it probably just reverts to the Substack with these stories. So the store you can, and Substack's been confusing for me. But you don't have to pay for it. You can just do the free, and you might not be able to read every story that's on a person's Substack, but you should be able to read most of them, I want to say. I don't know. Again, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's worth just checking out if you like these stories, you know, and if you want more once, because the series is ongoing. They're 5 or so episodes in, but there's so many stories, and I'm getting to the point now where I can't even wait for this next week's upload, and so it's like I might need to read ahead, you know what I mean? And that's what originally started me on this. So I've been a fan of Dopabeane for a while, ever since the CREEPCAST episodes. I've wanted to read this series. I've heard about it, obviously, and I was like, that sounds fucking awesome. Where can I listen to it? There must be narrations online. And although there are some, there aren't really any that like, I think they just pop in at random points for random monsters, which are cool, but there's not any that are from the series from start to finish. And that is what made me so happy to see that, oh, they're making a full audio series, because now I can just listen to it. And be a viewer, and so that's awesome. So this is the North American Pantheon, established in 1828. That also the agency of helping hands is the Pantheon. I mean, like, not only do some agents who work for the the agency like live at the Pantheon, like they themselves are inmates or whatever they're called. And so it's really kind of like interchangeable at this point. The agency of helping hands, obviously they have agents out in the field and just all around North America too, but like everything, from what I've understood, everything kind of revolves around this facility in, I think, Maine is where they say. Obviously it's supposed to be a secret facility, so they're not going to be like, yeah, it's on County Road 16, but I think they do mention Maine or northern Maine at some point, in the woods or something like that. So, but that is just our entry point, our trailer for the North American Pantheon. I don't want to ramble now too much more. I just want to get into the first episode, Numa. But that was Salua, so we get a little bit about Salua. She's the first inmate we've learned about. And now, one thing that I love about the series, and that you'll see in this, is that it just kind of throws you in. It builds the narrative in this one part, because we get an understanding of who our main character is at this point. But the whole idea is that we're just listening to tapes that are like interviews for the most part. And so this is going to be the Agent Bean, I think her name is, and it's going to be kind of their own like file on themselves, where they have to talk about like how they came to be employed at the agency, you know what I mean? And so it does a little bit of that, but then later, like, you could just send this series to a friend, and what's so cool about it is it'll just start with like beep, and then it'll just be like, today I'm interviewing the Bye Bye Mommy, which is an entity that, has kidnapped hundreds of children over the past, 100 years or what, and it just very quickly gets you into the story without a lot of the fluff or like theme song kind of like BS that a normal series would have. And I love that about it. I love that it's just like foot on the gas from the very beginning. So you'll see what I mean, but let's get into it. So this is Numa. And I don't know if I should full screen this, because it's just going to be this logo, or if I should, I guess maybe I could go back to full screen for me. But anyways, doesn't matter. We'll see.
I know how to make people talk. It's a pretty helpful skill. I can fairly say I've used and abused it to get what I want and to get out of what I don't want. It's even saved my life a few times. But every once in a while, it gets me into massive trouble. The first time it got me in trouble was in elementary school. It started with one of those stupid class games that frazzled teachers sometimes use at the end of pretty rough days. And this had been a pretty rough day. So my teacher, this lady named Mrs. Waters, announces, "Okay, class, we're going to play a game called Truth or Lie." And I could tell just by looking at her that she was making this up off the top of her head, practically pulling words out of thin air, words that she thought would grab our attention, words that would focus us, words that would make us do what she needed us to do. The words she finally came up with were, "So we go around the circle and we each tell one truth and one lie. The person across from you has to guess which one is the truth and which one is the lie. If the guesser gets it wrong, they go back to their desk, but if they get it right, they stay in the circle and we move on to the next person. Who wants to start?" Anyway, I was an insufferable kid, so I, of course, shot my hand into the air and screamed, "I want to go first, Mrs. Waters. Pick me. Pick me." Mrs. Waters almost rolled her eyes, which was no surprise. I kind of had that effect on people back then. And she said, "Okay, Rochelle, tell us a truth and tell us a lie." But I said, "No, I want to be the first one to guess which is a truth and which is a lie." Mrs. Waters really did roll her eyes then, and she pointed to the girl sitting straight across from me. I remember that girl's name was Sarah. I don't remember anything else about her, though. Anyway, Mrs. Waters told her, "Okay, Sarah, tell Rochelle one truth and one lie." I don't remember what Sarah's truth was, and I certainly don't remember her lie. But I do remember how she pouted when I correctly guessed which was which. Anyway, the class had gone halfway around the circle by the time we had our first elimination, who was a boy named Ben. He was so disappointed when he lost that he burst into tears. Anyway, the circle shuffled closer to fill in his spot, and we kept going. When it was my turn again, I guessed correctly. And again on my third turn, my fourth, fifth, and sixth. But my wins were getting kind of stale, and I was getting bored. The problem was these truths and lies were so stupid. Worse, they were silly. Like Megan's truth was she had a cat named Corky, and her lie was she had a giant snail who ate cars. Sammy wasn't any better. His truth was he had a little brother named Tucker, and his lie was that Stone Cold Steve Austin was his big brother. But when he made that claim, specifically when he gleefully spouted the words "big brother," I noticed that the girl across from me shifted weirdly. She turned in on herself like a flower blooming in reverse, and I locked in on that like the asshole I was, am, and probably always will be, and said, "Selena, tell me a truth and tell me a lie." She immediately answered, "I have a new puppy named Bandit and an uncle who lives on the moon." And then she giggled. That giggle made me want to slap her. Instead, I said, "Those are dumb, Selena." And her smile froze. And I focused on her, noting the way she twitched, how her left ankle kept rolling in and out, how her frozen smile still didn't meet her eyes. And then I said, "Tell me something that's actually interesting." And she said, "I can speak Spanish, but my mom doesn't like it." And following an instinct I've always had, don't understand, but never deny, I said, "Your mom being stupid isn't interesting. Tell me a truth that's important. Tell me a truth about your brother, Selena." And then she said, "I found my brother hanging in the garage. He had no shoes. His feet were purple and his tongue was too big for his mouth. I was in kindergarten when, she finished lamely. Then her eyes went wide and white as the oversized bone buttons on Mrs. Waters' sweater, and she burst into tears. I will spare you the fallout of that particular incident and move on to more important things. As I grew older, I got better at making people talk, better at finding words that grabbed their attention, better at finding words that focused my targets, words that...
So, see what I mean by the series just throwing you in? Like, we think we're going to get maybe like a general, this is what kind of life I had growing up. And instead we get a very specific personal story about not so much Rochelle's, our main characters, Agent Bean, she'll come to be known as, not so much her childhood trauma, but sort of like the childhood trauma which she exposed in other people, and this talent that she had for getting people to talk. And the story's going to go on to discuss how she becomes better with that. But I found it so intriguing that like this is the first entry into her that we get, and it seems like a very, like in a different type of story, that sort of talent, this sort of like, whether it's a lie detector talent or the ability to get people to reveal things, that could seem like just a very like, oh, you use that skill only for good. You can use that skill for good to solve crimes and to whatever, help people. And she is going to go into law enforcement and do that. But the way it kind of frames it, it's like, it's almost like it's not a benevolent skill, and it's really more of like a getting people to reveal things that they've buried that honestly shouldn't even be dug up, like that whole thing about her brother. She just like, I don't care your mom doesn't let you speak Spanish. I don't care about, your dog or whatever. Tell me about your brother. And the fact that our main character just knew that she had some sort of trauma with her brother that she was hiding, and then she reveals all that horrible stuff about finding him, hanging and all that stuff. It almost paints our main character in a sort of light of like, they're not altruistic. They're doing this for selfish reasons. They want people to, they just want to be entertained. They want to know all the nitty gritty, horrible details of stuff. And it really, like, and even how the main character is like the asshole I am and probably always will be, like, the story does a very good job of like making us interested in our main character without necessarily making us be like, oh, I'm 100% on her side, or, oh, like, we can empathize with her. We don't completely hate her, but we don't love her either. And I just find it so interesting. I like that, because if you're going to give your main character in a series or whatever, if it's a supernatural series, if you're going to give them a superpower, I do think it's important to maybe show how that power has like affected them, or maybe, how they're flawed in some other way because of that power, or like in spite of it, So I just, again, I think it would have been in a much more simple, like black and white type of story. They would have made just be like, oh, well, I can always get people to admit, whatever I want. So when I was a kid, I found out that Tommy, whatever, stole the class gerbil, and it could have just been something kind of silly and quick and dumb like that like showed that like, oh, she's a crime solver. She's a Sherlock Holmes, but the difference is it's this talent for interviewing and getting people to talk, right? It's not so much a deduction thing as it is just being able to break people, right? But instead, no, it's like she's selfish. She wants to maybe not feed off people's trauma, but she wants to like uncover it, and that gives her satisfaction, and there's really no, at least thus far in the series, from what I can tell, there's no stated reason as to why. Like, she has the power to do it, and therefore she just wants to do it, but she's never, at least from what I remember, because I have listened to the series at this point, she's never really stated like, oh, this is why I always wanted to do this, or this is, it was just like, well, I could do it, so I did, which again is a very human, a very like, basic like power dynamic of you know, well, if you have the power to do something, do it, and it's just that is a very like fucked up element that humans have where, absolute power corrupts absolutely sort of a thing. And it's very interesting to see that as like a starting point for a main character. Even if it's with this skill that's like, it's not that she's all powerful, but it's that she's like, she is able to uncover things that people don't want her to know. And that's very fun. I'm super stoked about it.
Made them do what I wanted them to do, that focused my targets. Words that made them do what I wanted them to do. When I turned 21, I decided to be a cop. I was really good at it, so good, in fact, that I promoted 3 times in 5 years. I was a sergeant by the time I turned 26. I was on the verge of promoting to lieutenant when the private industry came calling. It was a law office. The attorney paid me well, but not as well as the attorney who came knocking after him, who ended up not paying as well as the one who came knocking after her. The thing is, when you get really good in the public sector, the private sector comes after you. And when you get really, really good in the private sector, the government comes calling again. And the government isn't always good at being told no. Not that it occurred to me to say no. Officially, I worked for Human Resources as an interviewer. Unofficially, I was an internal affairs interrogator on steroids. You would not believe the things I learned or the catastrophes I helped avert. Unfortunately, that all went up in flames a few months ago. During what you would probably consider to be a very unconventional interview, the situation went off the rails in spectacular fashion, and my subject told me things even I wasn't supposed to know. Again, I'll spare you the details of the fallout. Let's just say that by the end of it, I was in almost incomprehensibly big trouble, and as a result, I was terrified.
So what I take that to mean is she was investigating somebody within the government who had high security clearance, probably higher than even the people who were having her investigate them knew, and she's breaking him, right? She's getting him to tell all the stuff. But then he starts to divulge that like, oh, well, I don't even actually work for the government. I work for the Agency of Helping Hands, and probably expose the whole entire organization of the Agency of Helping Hands, as well as supernatural shit, secrets, government secrets that the agency knows, and maybe like high level members of the government know, but that the public isn't supposed to know, or just a normal internal affairs investigation isn't supposed to uncover. And so that's kind of what I take that to mean, is that she was investigating somebody maybe for like embezzlement, something like that. And maybe they were guilty, maybe they weren't, but they were like, well, not only am I guilty of that, but for the agency, I've had to do so many horrible things, or, whatever. And they just kind of go on and on and on. And so now, not only has she been exposed to all these government agency, when I say agency, I mean, the Agency of Helping Hands, or just overall CIA, Black Ops, anything sort of agency, that not only, the agency didn't want her to know, but that, maybe was dangerous for her to know, or for the people, whoever her superiors are, like they're not supposed to know, any of that shit. And so now it's this whole thing where people either need to have their memories erased, or they need to be, silenced or brought into the agency or whatever. And so that's the can of worms that she kind of opened up by having this special ability where she can kind of get people to talk. And honestly, I didn't catch this in my first listen through, but honestly, I think I think maybe it goes beyond that, because she says words that can get people to do what I want them to do. And so I think she has a sort of mesmeric power where maybe she can not just physically get them, not just verbally get them to reveal things, but like physically even get them to, who knows? Like maybe it goes as far as like she could tell them to jump off a building and they would, or maybe it's more subtle to where it's like, she could get them to forget something, like forget we had this conversation, and then the people would, so maybe it's that sort of an ability, or maybe she could get people to, oh, I don't think you, or I think you want to go out for lunch today. Like say, they need to break into someone's office or something. And so she just kind of is like, hey, you always stay in your office. You deserve a break. Why don't you go out? Why don't you go out and get a real lunch? The vending machine's so crappy. Why don't you go? And they're just like, when normally they'd be like, no, I need to stay. They're just like, yeah, okay. And it doesn't really seem that supernatural. Like they're not just like blank stare, like zombified leaving the office or whatever. But I think it may, we don't know this yet, but I think it may extend beyond just getting people to talk, but we'll see. And that kind of makes sense to me, right? Because it doesn't make sense that, like, even trauma that people have buried so deep that, like, maybe they don't even fully remember it, or they can't even fully articulate what it is, but then they sit down with her and they're just spewing it all out. It almost seems like, yeah, if you are able to do that, you should be able to get that person to do almost anything, because they're revealing their deepest, darkest secrets, and that is harder than getting them to, whatever, jump off a building even. Like, plenty of people are like, I would much rather freaking do this than tell people about, whatever horrible thing that I did or that happened to me, because it's not always things that people did. A lot of times it's things that happen to people. But yeah, so fun. So good.
When you're that scared, you'll do anything you're told. And sure enough, I was given a choice. Die or do exactly as I was told. I was told I would continue to work as an investigative interviewer for an organization with the unassuming and weirdly charming name of the Agency of Helping Hands. I was told I would work under the supervision of an exceptionally brilliant and highly specialized psychiatrist with the striking name of Charles Wingeride. I was told that if I played my cards right, I'd be able to earn my own degree while working for Dr. Wingeride. And of course, I knew it was all too good to be true. I knew it in my core. I knew it because that little instinct that I've always had, don't understand, and never deny told me so. But I also knew I didn't have a choice. So I took the job. Shortly after taking the job, I learned that the Agency of Helping Hands runs a prison. Officially, it's called the North American Specialized Containment Unit, or NASCU, but everyone here just calls it the North American Pantheon. And that's where I work now, where I live as well, and my job basically is to interview the inmates.
Oh yeah, NAP time. Hell yeah, Rude Dude. Glad you're here. Great to have you here. Hopefully you're sticking around for a little bit. Yes, it is North American Pantheon time. We are getting into it. We are just in the first episode right now. We're gonna probably listen to as much as we can get through tonight. And I'm just so excited because I've already, to full disclosure, I've already listened to the most recent episode of this series, so I've listened to it all. But we're going back through it today because I want to obviously enjoy it and promote it on my stream, but then also yeah, I want to dig a little bit deeper. I want to take notes. And Dr. Charles Wingeride, who she just mentioned, who is a brilliant psychiatrist, psychologist. We don't know much about Dr. Charles as of yet. Obviously, he was just mentioned in the series, but even in later episodes, he remains pretty mysterious. But from what we can tell, I think if he doesn't straight up run the agency, he's one of the higher ups in the agency. My guess is, like most people in maybe not most people in the agency, but a lot of people in the agency, he probably has some sort of power as well. I don't know if that is just knowledge of psyches and human and supernatural beings and understanding of them, or if it goes like deeper, like maybe he can, maybe he can mesmerize people or make people forget stuff too. We don't know, but it's definitely a name that's gonna continue to come up, and I just wrote down because it's important. I don't know if he, because that's another thing in the series. It's like everyone's kind of a bad guy, and so therefore even the people within the agency, like, we have to kind of watch out for, similar to an X-Files thing, right? You have their superiors, and then you have the smoking cigarette man and all that stuff. And so, I think that Wingeride might be kind of like that. I think he might be like a cigarette smoking character where he's kind of pulling the strings behind. He's in charge of the cover-ups, as well as, like, when agents, find out stuff they're not supposed to, he's going to kind of squeeze them or, do things to them. So, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I want to understand it all better so that if I begin reading the series, if I start reading ahead, I'll understand it better. Or so just that as I'm listening to it, I don't forget, because not every character is in every episode. There's some characters where you go a few episodes before, oh yeah, they pop back up again.
Inmates. Most of these inmates are horrifying. Most are monsters. A few have never spoken a word to anyone to interview the inmates. Most of these inmates are horrifying. Most are monsters. A few have never spoken a word to anyone, and the ones that do talk, they'll taunt and terrorize, but they don't ever say anything. They don't really talk. And for a lot of reasons I cannot begin to explain right now, it's vitally important that they start talking. And that's why the agency needs me. It's the only reason I'm alive. Because I can make the monsters talk. The agency started me with the easiest inmate in the facility, I guess to make sure I can really do what they need me to do, which is fair. They had me do a full forensic workup, the kind of thing I used to do for the law offices, personal history, physical report, mental condition, current circumstances, and finally, a transcript of the interview with my insights. I can't describe this job. I really can't. This facility, these inmates, even the other staff. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I start to panic every time I think too hard about what to do. And I guess that's what happens when your understanding of the world has been inverted, when even that inversion has been inverted, and when the inverted inversion has burned to the ground, leaving you stuck in a perpetual state of fear. So rather than try and...
But like, you see what I mean in terms of, I need to look up the cast list. I think R.C. Bowman, who is Dopabeane, I thought they had a list of the whole. Dang, that sucks. Maybe it'll be at the end. 'Cause I don't want the transcript so much as I want the list of voice actors in this one. But I think that might be R.C. Bowman. I might be wrong about that. But even in just our main characters' voice acting, it's very good at, showing the level of desperation, and that our characters just a fish out of water. They're in, they're in a completely new supernatural dimension splitting reality, and it does seem like they're just kind of doing their best, and they're in way, way, way over their head. But then at the same time, they're proud of their ability to like break people and just get people to talk. So, it's like, it kind of, in a way, I wonder how long they're going to keep with that, like, like, this sucks, I had no other choice kind of thing, and realize that I'm kind of where I belong in some senses. Like, it's my abilities are not normal, and therefore it makes sense that I would be in this place with all the other things that aren't normal, or people that aren't normal, So anyways, I can't, I'll try not to pause too much more and do that, but I can't emphasize enough how much these good vocal performances really just make the series such a treat to listen to. Every week, every Sunday, I think there's a new episode, or at least that's how it has been for a little while. And we're only 5 episodes in, so who knows? But I do think that it's like it really elevates the series from whatever creepypasta or Reddit series, or whatever you even want to call it, online horror series, to like, oh shit, I'm listening to a performance where there's going to be emotion, and it's going to maybe kind of get to me at times and like break me, and that's one thing I said when I commented on one of the most recent videos. I said, can we watch this? Can we react to this? Because I was like, I want to listen to this in public, but honestly, like, I don't want to break down. Some of it is so emotionally like impactful that I was like, I can't just listen to this anywhere. Like, I have to save it. I have to wait until I'm in a mood or in a place where I know that I can just be ready for what's going to hit me. You know what I mean? And that is just the sign of a great art, just in general. Great art is going to affect people like that, obviously.
Probably fail to explain it all.
Oops, didn't mean to start. But anyways, yeah, so let's get back into it. You might see me getting up. I just do want to say real quick, you might see me like getting up and running to the bathroom or something like that real quick, but I'm just going to keep playing it because we can all hear it. I can hear it in my headphones. So, but I'm going to try not to do like chair reacts. I'm not going to just be gone for long periods of time because I'm here. I'm into it. I love this series, and I wanted to listen to it today on stream because I think that it is just that entertaining. From the get-go, it's been that way. From the trailer through all the episodes, each one I've liked and been entertained by in its own way. So
what I have to do, what I have to deal with, what will happen if I don't, I'm going to just share the file of the first prisoner I ever interviewed. His name is Numa. On November 12, 1928, authorities received a distress call from a remote logging village deep in the Canadian Rockies. There is no extant proof of the village's existence. Given the circumstances, the Agency of Helping Hands undertook extensive effort to ensure removal of all traces of the village and its inhabitants from the historical record. However, a recording of the original transmission exists in agency archives. The recording is 17 seconds long. Translated, it says this: "It came down from the mountain. It came for us. Help us. It's here." What follows is a low, unsettlingly sing-song roar. A sound without parallel. A sound obviously evolved to send the deepest, most primal core of the human mind into a panic. This panic does not recognize that a century has passed, or that thousands of miles now lay between it and the place that the sound was originally made. Extreme weather and difficult terrain precluded timely assistance. All the authorities could hope for was to clean up the mess, whatever the mess was, as soon as they could. And when they finally set foot in the village, they found death. Blood stained every inch of the village, coloring the snow and the ice beneath. Limbs, hair, viscera, and flesh were strewn across the village paths. Wild animals and domesticated dogs alike were found feeding on the carnage. The initial hypothesis was that a pack of starving wolves had set upon the village, or perhaps an unusually large bear woken prematurely from hibernation by the sounds of the lumber mill. In fact, given the extent of the damage, officials eventually postulated that the animal in question was an undiscovered and possibly isolated specimen of giant prehistoric cave bear. Shortly after their arrival, authorities began to...
They're like, oh yeah, the level of destruction here, the only thing that it could possibly be, it's just funny because, like, yeah, I'm sure there's not like a hurricane up there or anything. They're like, the only thing it could possibly be is a previously undiscovered giant megalodon dinosaur bear creature. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just, you know, it couldn't just be like, you know, I don't know, a stampede of buffalo. Like, you try to think about something that could cause, you know, a lot of like property damage or destroy houses. You're like, and you're like, oh, maybe it's like a winter hurricane storm or something, you know. And they're like, nope, it has to be it has to be a mutated woolly mammoth bear dinosaur creature. That's the only thing it could be. You see these tracks, you see these teeth marks, it must be that. And I mean, to be fair, they're right, and I'm sure they had reasons why they were like, it has to be a some sort of giant mammal. Obviously, like with the growling that was heard in the transmission and all that stuff, like, you know, the agency or the authorities had good reason to be like, oh yeah, that this is what we think it is. But yeah, it's just funny that the way that's phrased, and then the way that's like, the only logical conclusion we can jump to is a previously undiscovered giant megalodon bear wolf creature, you know. Oh, God. Yeah, it's got to be a dinosaur bear. Obviously, that's the only conclusion to draw. Yeah, exactly.
Catalog the damage. They were so shortly isolated specimen of giant prehistoric cave bear. Shortly after their arrival, authorities began to catalog the damage. They were so intent on their work that they failed to notice when one of their number vanished, until one of the searchers noticed the victim's blood-stained badge glinting in the snow and quickly realized that badge was still pinned to his decapitated body. Panic immediately ensued, and with it more carnage. One by one, responding authorities were picked off by this apparently invisible super predator. Eventually, 2 of the team members were able to successfully flee the area and made it back to their station, where one succumbed to injuries sustained during the attack. The other, however, survived. This survivor refused to return to the village, insisting that the beast was no bear, but something else entirely, something for which the world had no name. Regardless, authorities issued a warning and offered an astonishing sum for the head of this monstrous bear. Bolstered by the promise of a literal fortune, hunter after hunter sought the creature. Most never returned. The few that did agreed with the first survivor that this creature was no bear, no wolf, no creature known to man. The bizarre nature of the original incident and the multiple corroborating accounts eventually came to the attention of the Agency of Helping Hands, which quickly dispatched a team of specialized personnel to the village ruins. Due to the difficult terrain, as well as fears of encountering a giant cave bear mid-burial, the victims and their numerous pieces had been left out in the snow. Upon examination of these remains, agency personnel noted clear indications of a beast returning to its kill, and correctly deduced that the creature responsible was still actively feeding on the cold preserved corpses. Within hours of arrival, the agency team was attacked by this creature. One agent vanished while the team's backs were turned, his abrupt disappearance signaled only by a brief scream that echoed strangely from the surrounding trees. The team successfully traced the scream to a particular copse of trees. Upon approach, all noted something glittered, strange and high, among the snow-covered foliage. Large, silver eyes. Immediately realizing that it had been discovered, the creature launched itself out of the branches, a blur of white and gray stained with old blood, camouflage that had allowed the creature to hide itself among the snow-mutilated corpses that littered the village. The first agency team failed in its mission, although half of the members did survive.
See, and it's again, I'll try not to just pause to be like, this is another reason I love this series, but it's such a good mixture of like, so it's kind of clinical in terms of like the it's like the SCP files or logs or whatever, where it's kind of like the agency arrived on March whatever to blah blah blah, but then it does such a good job of weaving in those subtle details like the silver fur and the eyes, to where it was actually never even gone. It was just hiding amongst all this carnage and these dead bodies, and they just couldn't see it because this creature is so like evolved and adapted and good at hiding, that it was just, whether it's in the trees around them or like, and like the forest and stuff, or like amongst the carnage, like you blink and it's gone, or it's there once, you know what I mean? And it's just such a cool, like, subtle detail like that, where it's like, oh no, yeah, not only does it camouflage itself amongst the snow and all that stuff, but it literally just can not necessarily play dead, but because it's so covered in like blood and viscera, it's like you could mistake it for just another mutilated corpse, and then all of a sudden realize that like, oh no, that's just a monster wearing the skin of like 7 people, you know? Oh god, it's so cool. I love it. So good. All right, I'll be right back, but I'm gonna keep playing it.
The second, much larger team, led by the survivors, successfully trapped the creature. The first agency team failed in its mission. However, half the members did survive, and a second, much larger containment team, led by these survivors, successfully trapped the creature. Shortly after the creature's capture, a child emerged from one of the abandoned homes. The girl was crippled and suffered from other visible disabilities, and she appeared incapable of speech. When she saw the creature had been trapped, she ran to its enclosure and attempted to free it. The sight of her further agitated the creature, who was observed trying to pull the girl into its enclosure. Personnel shot the beast, forcing it to release the child before it could inflict injury. Unfortunately, a stray bullet hit the child. Due to the substantial resources at hand, her life was saved. But the creature did not necessarily realize this at the time, and the immense volume of its stressed vocalizations resulted in an avalanche that damaged his enclosure. Fortunately, agency personnel were able to repair the enclosure without further casualties. Due to the size and sheer strength of the creature, it was held on site until specialized transport could be arranged. By this time, the mute girl had healed sufficiently to travel. Since her presence clearly calmed the beast, she was taken into agency custody and housed at the Pantheon in view of the creature until she died of complications related to her gunshot injury 7 months later. For decades following its capture, the creature was treated like an abused zoo animal. No one could communicate with it, and no one bothered to attempt to do so until 1966, when an agency caretaker named Patrick W. saw something in the beast that inspired him to make an effort. Patrick's intuition proved correct. Following his personal involvement, the scope of the beast's intelligence quickly became apparent. Its cognitive capabilities exceeded even the most generous of estimations, and he even had a name: Numa. Numa possessed the ability to speak. This had been quickly determined shortly after his capture. However, he spoke a language that no one at the agency recognized, one that officials dismissed for decades, as one report put it, as nothing more than caveman grunting. However, with some prodding from Patrick, Numa began to draw pictographs to accompany his speech, and in this way, Numa taught Patrick to speak his language. Over time, Patrick was able to teach Numa English in turn. Numa was a surprisingly proficient student, driven in part by the fact that he was an intelligent creature that had been completely starved for interaction for the length of several human lifetimes. It should be noted that Numa only engages in conversation about topics that interest him. The topic that interests him most is a direwolf named Pup that he once befriended. The second most interesting topic is the death of Pup. According to Numa, all human beings deserve to die because a band of hunters killed Pup thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago is an indistinct and flawed, yet largely accurate assessment. Numa hasn't been in agency custody longer than any other inmate, but he is most likely the oldest inmate at the agency. He is unpredictable and prone to outbursts, often with deadly consequences. However, he displays remorse for these episodes of poor behavior and has been observed to weep at the departure of certain caretakers and to deeply grieve the deaths of favorite staff members. Secondary to an obsessive desire to punish humans for Pup's death, the most important aspect of Numa's psychology is his inability to comprehend time as we do. Numa appears to disassociate for extraordinarily long periods of time, only holding on to memories that are significant to him. For example, he's at least 14,000 years old, yet the abandonment he experienced as an infant is still fresh in his mind. During therapy sessions, he frequently obsesses over the way his mother screamed when he was torn away from her as a very small child. The only memories clearer to Numa than memories of his mother are his memories of his pet direwolf, Pup. For reasons currently unknown, Numa seems unable to accept that Pup is long dead, hence his repeated requests for the agency to bring Pup to him. Please note that to date, Numa has refused to discuss or even acknowledge the child with whom he was brought into custody. At this time, the agency has no idea whether she was even significant to Numa in any way. Agency personnel located Pup's remains in 1988. His body was so perfectly preserved that most of his soft tissues, including his eyes and nose, were intact. At the time, Patrick, Numa's favorite caretaker, had recently passed away, and Numa was inconsolable. As a result, the agency tentatively planned to clone the wolf as a safety measure, specifically with the aim of stopping Numa's frequent and deadly tantrums. However, after rigorous debate, it was decided that providing an apex predator with a companion apex predator would further endanger agency personnel. Just as importantly, a clone would simply not—
Ooh! Give him Pup, dude. Clone him a new pup. So obviously I was listening to everything. You can tell, like, this is where the series really starts to get good. Not only this episode, but like all of this is just so interesting. He was found with a little crippled girl. He apparently had a pet direwolf named Pup who was thousands of years old and who died and, and was killed by humans. And that's why Numa wants to kill humans. But then he has this one crippled girl that he seemed to have a relationship with. And I love the note there about how for so long they treated him just like you know, like a freak show zoo animal where they were just like poking him and prodding him and like, oh, this creature can't talk or blah, blah, blah. It doesn't, you know. And of course, it's an intelligent being who, like, I'm like, it had a relationship with the little crippled girl. Why would you assume that it, you know, it just shows how stupid they were for such a long time. And, you know, this whole idea of, giving him pup or giving him a pup, you know, cloning him a new pup, and oh, it would further endanger personnel. I'm like, they're already in danger. He kills them whenever he wants. Give him his pup, and who knows, you might have a badass, like, grateful bear god creature that's gonna freaking help you, that you know, that's going to be, because that's what the agency does, is they use these entities, if they can, to either hunt other entities or just for whatever, national security and shit. So I'm like, how badass would it be to have this giant bear dinosaur human thing that can talk, and a freaking dire wolf, like a cloned sentient maybe too dire wolf who is his pet. Like, I don't know. I just love the possibilities that it creates with this very kind of short interview and narrative. It literally gets so many of my creative juices flowing, and it just makes me so, like, excited to see what's going to happen. But I am of the opinion, for as far as Numa, and we can see again, this is another example of, yes, Numa was killing people, and yes, but he's not like a strictly just evil, insane, psychopathic creature. Like, yes, he was indiscriminately killing humans, but he feels like he was wronged by humans, and this grief, because he's an eternal being, he doesn't perceive time the same way. So all this grief of pup dying, and this girl even dying too, who I might argue was just a repetition of pup, or maybe was pup, I don't know. But the little cripple girl, like, you can argue that that he's so that like, it's like it just happened for him. Sorry, that's where I was going with it. Because he perceives time that way, you know, he's living the grief every single day or every single second like it just happened, because his whole life has just happened to him, because he's a being that doesn't perceive time like we do. And so he can't get over anything. He can't move on from anything. Everything that's happened to him and that mattered to him, you know, matters just as much as it always has, you know. And I find that such a cool touch of, like, the idea to think about a being that doesn't age or doesn't perceive time like we do is like, oh yeah, that would be cool to be immortal or whatever. But it's like, also, it might kind of fucking suck, because a lot of things around you aren't immortal. And so when they die or get killed or whatever, you know, that whole idea of you know, no one wants to live forever sort of a thing, because of the ultimate trauma it would have to you. And so that's what I love about Numa, is like, he's this whatever prehistoric wolf being, sentient, like wolf, bear wolf thing. But at the same time, and also I think Numa's the thing from the Terror. I want to say that. I feel like that is Numa as well. But yeah, he's a sentient wolf thing that, like, he's just all he is the pain of living thousands and thousands of lifetime. All he is that trauma, because he is a wild animal in some respects. You know, he lives in the harshness of nature, where things die and get killed, and like the circle of life goes round and round. But the circle of life just runs circles around Numa, and he's just there left to bear all the weight and grief and like horrible nature of it. It's so awesome. I love it. I love to think about like Numa's perspective as well as the agencies, and then you know, like how he has caregivers that he likes, but then, you know, at the same time he's just so angry at everyone that like he'll still lash out. You know, it's so cool. And he is always going to hate humanity because they killed Pup, and because they tortured him. Like, even when he came to the Agency of Helping Hands, he's like, whatever they do for him now, like, yes, maybe he'll be grateful that he's been being treated with more respect, but he's never gonna forgive the fucking whatever 100 years that they just sat there and like laughed and stabbed him with spears and fucking chucked tomatoes at him or whatever they did. You know what I mean? That they just tortured him. Like, he's never gonna forget that. And so that's just, oh, it's so awesome. I love it.
Not be Numa's beloved pup. Numa's senses are extremely developed compared to that of human beings, and there were valid concerns that Numa would be able to determine that the cloned animal was not actually his pup. Providing a cloned wolf ran the risk of upsetting Numa and potentially sending him into a psychotic spiral that the agency had no way of treating or reversing. Numa has a humanoid appearance, although he is significantly larger than any human being. At his full height, he is 9 feet 3 inches tall, with shoulders that measure 44 inches across. His body is covered in very fine, semi-transparent fur that possesses reflective properties.
So he's basically a giant. He wasn't a bear wolf, although I realize why they thought he was. He has the fur. He's a giant humanoid. He's essentially like a giant of old, and I believe he has the whatever. He has the kind of like a skin changer in a way, because he has the like ability to like almost become an animal. But yeah, he's almost like a biblical giant that has the ability, that has this camouflage fur that just reflects the light around it. And so, you know, freaking whatever, chameleon skin, basically, where he can blend in anywhere. And yeah, it's so badass. I like that he's like a human, or he's a humanoid. He can walk on 2 legs and all that stuff, but then that he's never gonna let go of his more animalistic like side. You know, I think that is such a kind of a cool touch, even him being around humans for so long, and even like, you know, getting relationships and whatever with him. Like, it's like he's, you know, a less evolved form of humans, but in many ways more evolved, because he refuses to separate himself from nature. It's so cool.
This provides Numa with natural camouflage. He has large eyes with white irises, and his face is unusually flat. Proportionally, his mouth is significantly wider than the mouth of an average human being. His teeth are clearly that of a carnivore, but don't resemble the teeth of any known animal. They fall out and regrow frequently. Numa's jaws possess extra bones and joints that allow his mouth to open excessively wide. These extra bones fold parallel to the teeth and are effectively invisible when Numa is speaking or at ease. When Numa feeds or wishes to intimidate agency staff, he unlocks these joints and opens his mouth to its widest point, baring all of his teeth. As previously noted, Numa's conversations with staff are numerous, repetitive, and generally very short. Despite serious, ongoing concerns for my personal safety throughout his treatment, I do believe I have made significant progress with Numa. In support of this claim, I have provided full audio of Numa's longest interview to date, which I performed. It follows this recording. My name is Agent Rochelle Bean. I am a forensic interviewer employed by the Agency of Helping Hands, North American Specialized Containment Unit. Today I'm conducting a session with the following inmate. Numa. Classification string. Non-cooperative. Indestructible. Gaian. Constant. Moderate. Terrace.
And so I will say about the classification string, we get into that in one of the more recent episodes. It's kind of like a quick whatever thing of the handbook. But I also want to say that I instantly wonder what all that means. And I need I don't know if it's on. I saw an employee handbook thing somewhere. Maybe it's on Substack, but I need a guide that has like that's like searchable to where, I can click on, things. And I'm sure there's a wiki too. I should just Google that real quick too. But I want to know all the classification, like what the because I'm not going to remember them all. See, I know this is one too. Yeah, here's the thing, but yeah, okay, I'll go to the bottom where it says the handbook. See, here's the Ward 1s. Oh. I want to get into the classifications. So yeah. Cooperative, uncooperative, non-cooperative, cooperative. Entity is not capable of cooperating with the agency. Entity is unwilling to cooperate with the agency. And entity is mortality classification: destructible, indestructible, chthonic, entities whose abilities manifested after death, or an entity that plausibly originates from what is commonly referred to as the underworld or spirit world. The Bye-Bye Mommy, Baby Girl, and the Big Bad Wolf are examples of chthonic entities. Gaian, which is what he was. Gaian entities who originate from the known normal world that possess completely terrestrial physical bodies. Numa, King Mojave Green are Gaian entities. Olympic, I found that so interesting that there's Olympic entities beyond the known reality plane or existence dimension. The Harlequin and the son of Hadron are classified as Olympic entities. Agnosto, entities of unknown origin. The Dodecagon or whatever, the Heartbird, are examples of agnosto class inmates. Casualty, a human being who has obtained characteristics or abilities requiring intervention of the AAH. Titan, an organism whose entities origination or creation was caused, directed, or otherwise influenced by the agency. Oh, interesting. So they've made some. Casualties are differentiated from human chthonic entities as follows. If dynamism manifested prior to death, they are called casualties. If dynamism manifested after or as a result of death, they are chthonic entities. Interesting. Pantheon entity possesses the ability to change its appearance either voluntarily or involuntarily. Changes when she's under emotional stress. The Bye-Bye Mommy is considered Pantheon. Constant, the entity's appearance remains fixed and consistent. threat classifications. Pretty obvious: substantial, severe, critical. Dynamism refers to the inmate's capacity to directly impact exterior elements such as structures, environments, and persons. In simple, somewhat crass terms, its power level. There are many fine yet highly important distinctions between different dynamism level. Classification levels are the egregor, theos, daemon. Life on a mass scale. The Harlequin is an egregor class inmate for reasons currently undisclosed. The agency administration has also classed the dodecadron as an egore. Inmates whose dynamism is critically dangerous and can be exerted and or expressed on a target without requiring the target to be in close physical proximity. Hemetheos, inmates with critical dangerous split dynamism. Some elements of its dynamism can be expressed without requiring a target to be in close physical proximity. So that's like the whole idea of like they can maybe they aren't going to be able to physically touch you unless they're in the room with you, but they can like infiltrate your dreams, right? Or they can they can appear to be closer to you than they actually are, stuff like that. While other elements of dynamism require close physical proximity to its subject, Pantomime and the Bye Bye Mommy are Hemetheros class inmates. Daemon, inmates with critical dangerous dynamism expression that is limited to its immediate vicinity and or people in close proximity. King Mojave Green and a Jar of Clay are Daemon class inmates. Teros, inmates with critical and or dangerous dynamism that does not express itself in traditionally supernatural ways. The dynamism of Teros class inmates expresses as enhanced abilities found naturally in nature, including but not limited to speed, strength, camouflage. Okay, so that's why Pneuma and other critically dangerous and others that are critically dangerous due to the degrees of enhancement. Pneuma, the Bag Lady, are Terrace class inmates. Apele, inmates with dynamism that is highly dangerous but easily neutralized through standard means. The Ghoul of Aleppo is an Apele class inmate. Dinos, inmates with high dynamism that is deliberately expressed in a low impact manner. Mrs. Stitcher and the Big Bad Wolf are Dinos class inmates. Interesting. So it's like they have it, but they only do it in subtle ways. I guess they have the ability to affect you from long distances or whatever. I'm a little unsure. Problematic and or dangerous manner. Phallos with low dynamism that expresses itself in a highly problematic. So it's low dinos, but the Phallos and the Petrosauroi or Lifeblood are Phallos class inmates. Anyways, we'll hear a version of this read to us in one of these stories, but I wanted to get a brief refresher as we're listening to Pneuma's classification here so that it's a little more understandable. But
despite serious, ongoing concerns for my personal safety throughout his treatment, I do believe I have made significant progress with Pneuma. In support of this claim, I have provided full audio of Pneuma's longest interview to date, which I performed. It follows this recording. My name is Agent Rochelle Bean. I am a forensic interviewer employed by the Agency of Helping Hands, North American Specialized Containment Unit. Today I'm conducting a session with the following inmate. Pneuma. Classification string. Non-cooperative. Indestructible. Gaian. Constant. Moderate. Terrace. Hello, Pneuma. My name is Rochelle. I'm here to talk to you today. So please, tell me what's on your mind.
Back in the times when I was free and I lived on the ice, I found a pup. I did not know what his name was, and it was not my place to name him. I only called him what he is, Pup. Pup was abandoned by his pack, as I had been. My pack left me to die on the ice, for I was not like them. Pup was not like his pack either. He was so very small, with a twisted leg which made him a cripple. I loved him very much. I loved his small, wet nose, and I loved his...
See, right there. That's the cripple thing. That's why he took pity on the little girl. Or I'm wondering if he's had multiple pups and the girl was just the most recent example of it. And he always takes pity on these crippled individuals, whether they're actual like dire wolves, like it said originally, or whether they're humans. Like, it's almost like he can't distinguish or doesn't want to distinguish between the two. And so I find myself wondering if they say that they know that Pup was a dire wolf and that they found the corpse and they wanted to clone it or whatever, but I'm wondering if Numa knows that he also had like a human girl pup. You know what I mean? Anyways.
His bright eyes. I loved that he cried for me when I left our cave to hunt, and I loved that he spun in happy circles when I returned each morning. I have never loved anything so much. I do not think anything has ever loved me as much as Pup. No one loved me back then. The people were cold and harsh in those days, so harsh that soft men like you would not even recognize them as people. They would not recognize you as people either, because you are too weak. They did not recognize me as people because I was too strong. But I was not too strong to love crippled things. I found Pup crying in the snow, with ears blackened by the cold and frost on his eyelashes. How the frost glittered in the cold white sun. By the time I found Pup that day in the snow, I had been alone many moons. So many moons that I forgot the faces of my pack, those who had left me to die so long ago. I only remembered that they looked different from me. They had hair of night, not like my hair of ice, dark eyes to see on the ice, not like my wide eyes which were made to hunt in the night. They had teeth like cows for chewing the grasses and the berries and the dried meats of mammoth that sustained them through the cold moons. My teeth are not like theirs. My teeth, well, you see my teeth. When I saw Pup, I almost left him in the snow, but as I stepped over his stringy body, my wide eyes already scanning the tundra for a cave bear or giant elk to eat, Pup's tail wagged. At me. At me. I thought of the scavengers, of the giant hyenas and the saber-toothed lions that prowl the ice. I thought of them slinking across the tundra on their hollow, slinking bellies. I thought of this poor crippled thing wagging his tail as they approached him, and of the cry he would make when they betrayed his trust and tore into him with their rotting teeth. Those thoughts brought tears to my wide eyes. So I picked Pup out of the snow. His fur was frozen to the ground, which pulled out tufts of it when I raised him up to look. He was so small. I could fit him in one of my hands. My hands, you see them. They're not made for holding, but they held Pup. They held him every day as he grew. He loved me above everything, and I him. Together, we were pack. Soon, my crippled Pup grew into an adept hunter. With him at my side, we would do one of two things. We could bring down the same amount of game in half the time, or twice the game in the same time. We were gluttons, Pup and I, and we chose to bring down twice the game. Mammoth and hyena, bear and seal, tiger and white lion, none could withstand us. One night, I was very full from my gluttonousness and very satisfied. I had no desire to hunt, but Pup did. He ran back and forth across our cave, jumping upon me, shoving his nose into my face to rouse me. I shoved him away, for we still had meat in our cave. So much. But Pup did not want that meat. He wanted fresh meat, torn hot and steaming from the prey as it screamed and twisted in his jaws. I was too tired and full to hunt, so I told Pup to find it himself. He did. He came back to me sometime later, dragging a bloody, hairless body. I thought it was a cub of some kind, or perhaps something diseased, but it was not. It was a man. Bloody guts dragging in the snow, eyes wide and shining as the high winter sun. Looking at the man made me laugh. I do not like men. Although I am stronger and older and better than any man, I am not too strong or good to feel hurt. Nor so old I cannot remember. I remember what the men in my human pack did to me. I remember how they left me to die in the snow, and how my black-haired mother tried to stop them. She screamed as they dragged her away from me. Her hands stretched for me, and her scream hurt my ears. Even now, I can hear her scream. Even now, it hurts my ears to remember. That is why I laughed to see a dead man, and why I ate even though I was already full and slow. As we ate, I looked upon Pup with pride. How smart he was, my Pup. How right. Men are so much weaker, so much crueler, so much poorer to behold than the majestic elk and the great monstrous bear. So much better it was to eat small, soft, cruel men than other grander creatures that belong. That man was the first of many. Men are the easiest to hunt, especially when you catch them alone. They are the easiest to eat. No fur, no feathers, no great beaks, nor thick leather flesh to bite through. Men are cruel and weak, and in many ways, stupid. They were hard to catch before when they roamed the ice in small bands, following the warm season as it passed through the land. But they no longer lived that way. The men were no longer like those who banished me from my pack. Now they stayed in one place, these men, all together in shelters they built. I did not know the name of these clustered homes then, but now I know they are called villages. These fools built villages. The men and women and their young together, so easy to find, so easy to eat. Pup and I are gluttons, as I told you. We were gluttons with these people too. Too gluttonous. Soon our appetites and nightly hunts.
Too gluttonous. But how cool is that whole part where the story, I mean, it does such a good job of humanizing Numa, of making you like Numa, and even when they get to the part where they're just hunting humans or whatever, you really don't feel bad for the humans, or you really don't, like, you understand it because he's just an animal, or he's lived as an animal so long and he's been wronged by the humans that cast him out from his tribe. So even if that technically, like, even makes him a cannibal or whatever, you really, at least me, I'm really almost on Numa's team, you know, on the side. I'm like, well, people see themselves as, you know, the greatest predator or the apex predator. And so when a bigger, better apex predator came along, or at least for a while he was a better one, it's like, you know, that's just nature, baby. You know, you can't fight Mother Nature. So it's so cool that this series, like, you know, it goes into, like, why the monsters are the way that they are, or sometimes even how they became monsters, but it does such a good job of humanizing them and just making the agency in some ways out to be the bad guy, but then at the same time, there's only, from what I can tell, there's only a few, and that's not every monster you're gonna come away with feeling that way about, but I feel like more often than not, we empathize more with the monsters than we do with anything else. And I don't know, that just, I think, speaks to how good the series is and good the writing is. But then also, I think when it comes to individual versus institution, it's it's always going to be easier for us as an individual to side with another individual who's had injustices and stuff like that, as opposed to the institution that's coming to correct them or to capture them or whatever it may be, you know. And yeah, I don't know, that just I don't know, that shows me something about myself or about, you know, human beings just on the individual level that I think's really fascinating.
Chased all the men away from the valley, but they did not stay away long. Pup had not even grown grayness on his muzzle by the time the men sought to return, and of course, they returned. The ice is desolation for all but the beasts and monsters that belong there, but the valley, this valley that had sprouted in the middle of the endless ice, was fertile and green, drawing all the lions and hyenas, the bears and wolves, and the elk and the tigers. The valley had berries, meat, water, and shelter from the screaming winds. Living in the valley was easy. Cruel, weak men flourish when life is easy. When that life is stolen from the other, grander creatures, it is somehow even easier for them. I was foolish. I was too proud. Although men are weak and cruel, they are not stupid. They knew that Pup and I were the monsters in the valley, the beast they could not overcome. Although that kept them away for a year, perhaps 2 or 3, I do not remember, hunger persuaded them to return. And so did the weeping of their women and the hollow bellies of their children. Hollow-bellied children, hollow-bellied men, so like the hollow-bellied beasts who once slunk across the ice for my Pup. Hollow-bellied monsters, all of them. They came for Pup and me, these hollow-bellied men. I did not see them coming. My wide eyes were made to hunt in the darkness, not to see the monstrous plans of men. The men found our cave and came in the day while Pup and I slept. I woke quickly, but not quickly enough to stop them. Only quickly enough to watch them open Pup from the throat to haunch. How my poor Pup screamed, how his blood flooded the floor, staining the snow in my hands. I've never loved anything as much as I loved Pup, and I never felt rage as the rage I felt that morning, looking upon those weak and cruel men. I tore their limbs away and flung them against the walls, streaking the rock with their blood. I opened their hollow, stinking bellies as they opened Pup's. I broke their heads off their foul bodies. I stomped on them until there was nothing left to stomp upon. In each of their faces I saw my hollow-bellied pack who had abandoned me on the ice. My hard-eyed sire, the crooked-jawed alpha, my screaming mother. How her screams hurt my ears. I killed them all, and they could not stop me. But I could not stop them from hurting Pup. I tore their pieces into pieces, and those pieces into smaller pieces still, and brought them to Pup. He could not move. He lay on his side, blood freezing around his body. When he saw me, his tail thumped against the floor, and I remembered him as he was, the tiny Pup abandoned on the ice, thumping his tail from the moment he first saw me. I gathered him up and carried him to the highest, deepest part of the cave and lay him on his side. His tail did not thump again. I sat beside him, still and silent, and waiting in dark so deep even my wide eyes could not see within it. There in the darkness, I waited for Pup to wake. But I waited too long. When the darkness had passed and I was able to see again, Pup was gone from me. You people tell me that the years passed and the ice grew over Pup, but he has not been dead so long as he is buried deep within new ice. No, I know better. Pup is too cunning. He's too wise. Pup waited for me to feed him, to help him, but I did not. I went into darkness for so long that he left, and it was because of men. I kept hunting you, you who hurt my Pup, you who took my Pup away, you who took my mother away, she whose screams still hurt my ears. You took and you take. You will always take, because that is what stinking, hollow-bellied monsters have always done, and it is what you will always do. You men got weaker as the moons passed. Softer, weaker, stupider, easier to catch, easier to eat. But you never became less cruel. No, you only became more cruel. You are so cruel that you will not even let me be free. You trap me like stupid, weak game in a burrow, yet you wonder why I am angry. You wonder why I rage. Now I have told you. It is Pup. And I promise you this. I will no longer be angry, nor will I rage at you, not at you, if you find my Pup and bring him to me. I get so sad thinking of him alone on the ice among the hollow-bellied beasts. The sadness is why I rage at you. So I will stop if you bring him to me. I promise you. Please, bring him back. Please. I miss him so.
I mean, come on. Is that not a fantastic first episode? I want to say more, but I got a mouthful of sunflower seeds, so I need to eat them real quick. But, here, 1 second. It's those lines like him calling them hollow bellied and saying humans have only gotten crueler, they've gotten weaker and stupider, but also more cruel. It's those lines like that, and then those lines about like the sadness is why I rage, you know? He rages, he gets so angry because they took Pup away, or they separated him from Pup in his mind. You know, Pup is still alive, but if they would just find his Pup, he wouldn't be sad, he wouldn't rage. It's just so fucking heartbreaking. Like, it literally, in a cool horror story and a cool, like, I don't know, like, psychological interview piece about interviewing a monster, it's rare to find something, I think, that can do all that and be cool, creepy horror, but then also be so fucking emotionally impactful. Like, how does your heart not break? By the end of that, how does your heart not break for both Numa and Pup? Mine certainly is. And I'm like, yeah, again, great first episode, great vocal performances by both. Like, I think that is, again, like, you know, that, I forget who that was, if it was like Dark Somnium or who that did the voice of Numa, but it literally elevates what is already a great episode, a great first short story in the series, to, in my opinion, like, just amazing art. And all the more reason why this, I mean, I'm so grateful it's an audio series, because it's how it stays true to the original stories the best. But I'm like, would this not make an amazing series, TV, fucking, you know, like, visual? Because I can see it. I could see him hiding in the snow. I can see the flashbacks with him and Pup and like hunting together. And yes, like, he's like, we were hollow-bellied monsters. You know, but why should we kill all these great, beautiful animals when the humans are here and they're so much weaker and crueler than these majestic other creatures? You know what I mean? And so it really, like, as a first episode, I think it does. It's good that it has such a likable monster, right? Because it kind of gets you in the mood to where you can see that, like, okay, this isn't just going to be black and white where all the monsters are the bad guys straight up. And then, yeah, and then it just makes me, when I first listened to the first episode, it makes me desperate to know what happens in Numa's story. Like, are we at the end of his story, or are we just at a turning point, where are they going to end up giving him a pup or, something like that? And is that rage really going to be gone if he gets pup back, or if he gets a pup back? Like, or is it only satiated for a time? We don't know. We don't know, because that's the other point, is they say the goal of this facility is to rehabilitate. And so it's like, can the series ask a lot of questions that we as a society ask about, murderers and people incarcerated, is like, can we really rehabilitate someone? And even if they seem rehabilitated, are they really, have they truly changed, And so I can't wait to see what happens with Numa, and to really just I just want him, because I'm such a cornball. I want the happy ending most of the time, and so even if he just breaks out and like dies, or the agency kills him, which he's indestructible, they can't. But let's say they found a way to I just really want him to at least get that reunion with Pup, or a new Pup, where he's happy again. And then if shit goes downhill or whatever, okay, fine. But because he's such a likable entity, monster, god, But yeah, anyways, let's get into the next episode, the Bye Bye Mommy. Bye Bye Mommy is great. It's the second episode. You'll notice that some of these episodes, they do dual. They also do the Fuck HIPAA title, because that is like, colloquially, a lot of people know the series because that was the original title of it. But I'm gonna watch the ones that are that just have the entity title, just so that it's easier for me to track which ones I've seen and which ones I still maybe haven't. But I've seen them all right now, so.
Between 1971 and 1978, a series of child kidnappings plagued Pierce County, Washington. The victims were abducted from locations typically associated with family fun, such as movie theaters, bowling alleys, playgrounds, and in one case, Point Defiance State Park. According to witnesses, each child vanished after being yelled at, grabbed, or otherwise publicly disciplined by a parent, after which the children went away to pout or cry, and simply never returned. 12 children eventually vanished in this manner. Then, in November 1978, a bizarre mass grave was discovered in rural Eatonville, Washington. Within the grave were the remains of 23 children in various stages of decay. The oldest remains were skeletal, while the freshest still possessed somewhat recognizable facial features. Each child was laid out under a blanket with evidence of having been tucked in, and had a makeshift pillow under his or her head, and a toy of some kind pressed into their arms. At autopsy, all of the children were found to have moss, leaves, twigs, and tree bark in their stomachs. 7 appeared to have died of intestinal blockage related to this peculiar diet. The others died of starvation. Most disturbingly, 6 of the children bore injuries consistent with long-term physical abuse. 8 bore no such injuries. 9 were too decomposed to definitively assess the presence of any injuries. The discovery of the corpses was handled with supreme delicacy by the Pierce County Sheriff, who had prior experiences with the Agency of Helping Hands, and recognized that this discovery was in line with the agency's scope of responsibilities. The agency promptly launched an investigation and quickly discovered that 12 of the bodies belonged to abduction victims. An additional 8 were identified during the course of the investigation. 3 of the victims remain unidentified to this day. After interviewing witnesses to the known abductions, the agency determined that a woman with distinctive red hair and a mildly deformed face had been present immediately prior to each disappearance. Adult witnesses were uniformly unhelpful. However, witnesses who were minors or had been minors at the time of sighting provided valuable information. The most detailed eyewitness report is consistent with other known reports. It has been summarized below. A 5-year-old child named Brianna was at a pizza restaurant with an attached arcade along with her parents and brother. Approximately an hour after the family's arrival, Brianna asked her mother for additional game tokens. Her mother refused loudly, asking if Brianna thought they were made of money. Brianna argued, at which point her father began to yell at her too. The witness described the father's tirade as an expletive-laden temper tantrum that shocked onlookers. Understandably, Brianna began to cry, at which point her father spanked her for being a selfish crybaby. Brianna slipped out of her father's grip and ran away from him, exhibiting clear distress. When her father attempted to follow her, a staff member intervened, resulting in an altercation. During the altercation, Brianna hid in a corner to cry privately. A few minutes later, a woman with red hair and an unusual face approached Brianna. Brianna initially pulled away, perhaps put off by the woman's peculiar appearance, but the woman appeared to quickly win her over by asking Brianna her favorite food. Brianna responded that her favorite food was ice cream, so the woman asked Brianna if she wanted to go get an ice cream, to which Brianna enthusiastically agreed. Other children in the vicinity, including the primary witness, clamored to tag along, but the woman gently refused, saying that Brianna deserved a treat because she had bad parents. Following this pronouncement, the woman took Brianna by the hand and instructed her to look over at her parents, who were still engaged in conflict with the arcade staff. She then gave a little wave in their direction and instructed Brianna to say, "Before we go, say bye-bye, Mommy." Brianna obediently repeated, "Bye-bye, Mommy." The moment this phrase was uttered, the juvenile witnesses began to panic. According to the primary witness, this is because the phrase was consistent with retellings of a local urban legend known, naturally, as the Bye-Bye Mommy. The juveniles tried to raise the alarm, but the ongoing altercation between staff and Brianna's parents rendered them unheard as the red-haired woman melted into the crowd with Brianna by her side. Brianna was never seen alive again. However, Brianna's body was exhumed from the mass grave in Eatonville, and her body was among those that had shown signs of long-term physical mistreatment. Following the discovery of the mass grave, the agency investigated this so-called Bye-Bye Mommy for weeks. According to urban folklore, she was a vengeful boogeyman figure who spirited away disobedient children, particularly children who defied their parents in public. Information, however, was scant for such a widespread tale, consisting primarily of 3 elements. The first element was that the entity looked deformed, or so the rumor went, because her mean husband punched her so hard that he broke her face. The second element was that after selecting her victim, the entity insisted that he or she say, "Bye-bye, Mommy," before kidnapping them. And the third element was that the children taken by the Bye-Bye Mommy were never seen again, resulting in considerable fear among local children at the time. Disturbingly, nearly half of the victims exhumed from the mass grave in Eatonville were never reported missing. As previously stated, some of these individuals were never identified. However, of the unreported victims that were identified, 1 was undocumented, 4 were runaways, and 3 had been in foster care at the time of their disappearance. The parents of the runaways and the guardians of the foster children either already had, or were later discovered to have, histories of mistreating minors in their care. It must be noted that this information contradicts the prevailing rumor that the entity punished disobedient children by way of kidnapping, and lends credence to the entity's own claims that she only took, or in her words, rescued, children living with subpar guardians. The agency experienced great difficulty in tracking this entity, as it was impossible to identify and set watch over every victim of child neglect or abuse in Pierce County. Personnel eventually decided to stake out the mass gravesite. Finally, after 8 weeks, the entity returned to the gravesite. When she saw that the remains of the children were no longer present, she flew into a rage. As is common with such entities, the high emotion disrupted her physical state and she began to morph, assuming a disturbing appearance that presented signs of decay, severe bodily trauma, and non-human proportions. Agency personnel failed to apprehend her using standard methods, in the process placing themselves in mortal danger. One agent, thinking quickly, screamed that she needed the entity's help to rescue her baby brother, who was being abused by their stepfather. Please note that this agent had neither a baby brother nor a stepfather. However, this claim caught the entity's attention, so the agent stated that her brother had prayed to Jesus for the Bye-Bye Mommy to help him and was waiting for her to rescue him. Due to her intense distress over the missing bodies, the entity did not, or perhaps could not, resume normal proportions, but she followed the agent in order to help this non-existent baby brother.
So funny that they trick her. They're like, I've got a neglected child. We can go get it together, you know. Because it's sort of like the way a kidnapper, child predator can, oh, my dog is lost. Can you help me find it? You know, it's like a similar ruse. And I just like that that's how they catch her. Obviously, this woman is a lot less, and we can empathize with this type of creature a lot less than, Numa, our first one. But I was really curious. I was trying to find, because it's so specific, the whole Pierce County thing and everything. And I guess it's because it's supposed to be, they just gave it a specific or like operating area because this is like a chthonic entity that its powers came after death. Yeah, stupid entity fell for the bait. But I was curious because that whole part about like the Pierce County and the massive child grave, I couldn't. I was thinking maybe this was based on like maybe there was a child, like a kidnapper or like a woman child murderer in that area of Washington, and I was looking it up and I couldn't really find anything about it. There was a massacre which I think included children, like a Native American times one. I forget what it was called. It was called like the I don't know, Michigan or something massacre. But that was in that area of like Edenville or whatever. But it's so specific that and some of these things are real, like fairy tales or real folklore that's been adapted for this series. But like this entity was one that I was like, is this a true thing? Because it seems so specific and everything, but I couldn't really find anything on it. Of course, there's always been stories about entities that kill or kidnap kids or, boogeyman type creatures. But the Bye-Bye Mommy that's like, I need to save you from your bad parent. It's so haunting and creepy. And the whole idea how she morphs when she gets like upset and she can't, the illusion of her being, although kind of deformed, like, oh, I'm just a nice normal woman, like that illusion breaks down and you see that she's like dead and decaying is just so cool. I love those touches. Yeah, again, it's just so fleshed out and specific that I'm just amazed by like the world building and how much thought is put into each individual entity is so. Each of these could be their own horror book or series, but then the fact that we just get so many in one series is so much fun. It's the best. I love it.
The agent directed the entity to the agency's nearest field location, whose personnel were equipped to capture and eventually transport the entity. Once she was in custody, the agency was able to trace the entity's origins quite easily. Before her death, the Bye-Bye Mommy was a woman named Roxanne King. Records show that Roxanne had multiple complaints of child abuse and one charge of neglect lodged against her. Shortly before her death, Roxanne had sent her young daughter to live with the child's equally unfit father after the child upset her. Remorse quickly set in, and Roxanne attempted to retrieve her daughter for the next 3 months. She was unsuccessful. According to her own testimony, she had a nightmare approximately 14 weeks later, in which her daughter was emaciated and panicking as a pack of monsters starved her to death. This nightmare was so powerful that upon waking, Roxanne immediately called emergency services before driving to her ex's house, which was a trip of approximately 35 minutes. By the time she arrived, emergency services was on site and had confirmed the child's death. In a fit of rage, Roxanne attacked her ex as the police escorted him out of the house. He hit her back with enough force to break both her jaw and cheekbone. She then threw herself in front of the oncoming ambulance, killing herself. Suffice to say, she did not stay dead. While issues arise in assigning human standards of sanity, insanity, and culpability to our inmates, it is my opinion that the Bye-Bye Mommy is not sane. Contrary to the belief that she abducted children to punish them, she believes she was saving them. Had she been a more competent and substantially less narcissistic protector, perhaps she could have. Instead, she held her victims captive at an undisclosed location in rural Pierce County until they died. The entity insists she took her victims to a beautiful home that she built after her death and fed them the most delicious food in the world. Initially, these claims were completely dismissed by agency personnel. Later assessment of the entity's abilities, however, showed that she is capable of throwing an immersive glamour, something akin to a full-body virtual reality experience. In her own words, and I quote, "I took these babies away from hell to a heaven with a beautiful house, friendly pets, and delicious food. A place where treats grow on trees and nothing is ever dirty. A place where a mother loves them, and the children are happy with me forever." Needless to say, the entity is a profoundly unreliable narrator, and caution must be exercised at all times when engaging with her. The source of the entity's glamour casting appears to derive from a coping mechanism of, for lack of a better term, rewriting history. Her personal mental instability and immense guilt over the death of her daughter led her to create a false history in which she is an ideal mother. Through processes not yet understood, the power of this delusion increased substantially at the time of her death, enabling her to design, bring into being, and inhabit a false reality in which she is a perfect parental figure. Most impressively, she is able to bring others into this false reality alongside her. Obviously, this explains several things about the case, such as the fact that the kidnapped children never attempted to escape the entity, as well as the fact that their digestive tracts were full of inedible matter. The entity was making the children and herself perceive twigs, leaves, and bark as delicious food. It must be noted that without any children to save, Roxanne's internal landscape and false reality have grown substantially more destructive. That she currently exists in a state of perpetual anguish cannot be denied. For these reasons, her prognosis is very poor. Due to her instability, her substantial mental suffering, and the danger she poses to the public, the agency long ago made the decision to terminate her on humane grounds. Unfortunately, despite numerous efforts with every tool and method the agency possesses, termination has been unsuccessful. Under these circumstances, V-Class Commander Valentin Cortez recently proposed a pilot program wherein the Bye Bye Mommy might help identify and rescue abused children. However, administration is of the opinion that the incredible complications inherent in such a proposal and the reliance on local law enforcement to maintain secrecy both render this plan impossible. Further, administration believes that even if these complications could be neutralized in some way, the entity's mental and emotional instability render her entirely unsuitable for such work. There is also the issue of her relative youth. She is undoubtedly a young entity, and in the way that young rattlesnakes are more dangerous than older ones, so are young inmates. They can't control themselves, they possess little to no emotional regulation, and they wield their abilities thoughtlessly. Substantial and numerous attempts have been made by staff psychiatrist Dr. Wingeride to rewire the entity's internal reality to something more pleasant. All attempts have failed, and in one case, agency personnel perished as a result. For these reasons, the consensus is that the agency is unable to utilize this entity, or rehabilitate her, or even soothe her. At this time, the entity will continue to be held indefinitely pending discovery of a successful mode of termination. My name is Agent Bean. Today I'm conducting an investigative interview with Inmate 2, Roxanne King, also known as the Bye Bye Mommy. Her classification string is as follows: non-cooperative, indestructible, chthonic, protean, moderate, hemitheos. Good afternoon, Roxanne. My name's Rochelle, and I am here to talk to you today.
I don't want to talk to you.
Why don't you want to talk to me?
Because whenever I talk to you people, you punish me.
I'm not here to punish you, Roxanne. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to cause any trouble for you. I am just here to listen. Only to listen. So tell me what's on your mind. Roxanne? Tell me.
I really thought I'd be a good mom. I could have been. I could have been the best mother on earth if someone had just shown me how. But no one ever did. That's why I didn't know what to do. I knew what not to do. I learned that from my own mother. It was one rule, easy to follow. Just don't do anything she did. Don't scream at your kids for no reason. Don't hit them for any reason. Don't embarrass them in public. Don't tear them down. Don't let other people hurt them. Don't ignore them when they need you. You're the most important person to your children, the most important person ever, so act like it. Well, most importantly, don't ever withhold food. Always feed your kids. Always feed them first, no matter what. Always. See, I knew what not to do, but knowing what not to do isn't the same as knowing what to do. I know that now. I was 15. My mom kicked me out and told me I was still the same whore that I had always been, and to get out and never come back. So Amber's dad took me in. He definitely wasn't 15, but 15-year-olds can't rent apartments, so it was for the best. Only it wasn't for the best at all. But that doesn't matter. None of that matters. All that matters is Amber. I couldn't wait for her to be born. I couldn't wait to have a baby, to have my own family. Someone who would always be with me. Someone who would always need me. Someone who would always love me. Except when she finally got here, I didn't know what to do because no one ever showed me how. I didn't know what to do when she wouldn't sleep. Or when she screamed until her little voice got raw. When I couldn't make any milk, when the formula made her sick, when she had allergic reactions to her diapers. I just didn't know what to do. That's why I ended up doing what I wasn't supposed to do, like scream at her, especially when her father screamed at me because she was screaming, and sometimes I left her alone in her crib in the closet when I couldn't take it anymore. I ignored her. I let her dad shriek at her until she was hysterical because it kept him from screaming at me. And when I got tired of her constant sick belly, I didn't feed her, sometimes for hours. Once or twice for a whole day, especially when she got older. But even though I did everything I wasn't supposed to do, she loved me anyway. And when I didn't stop stop doing the things that I shouldn't do, she kept loving me. She still wanted to snuggle with me every night. She still wanted to share her toys with me and have tea parties with me. And she still wanted me to curl her hair and make her pretty and take her to the playground and the bowling alley. She loved the bowling alley. She couldn't even pick up a bowling ball, not even the one they make for kids. And if Amber had just been that way all the time, the snuggly, playful, pretty little mommy's girl who loved tea parties and playgrounds and bowling, I would have been the perfect mom without even trying. But she wasn't. In between those good times, she was a fucking monster. A screaming, petty, jealous, selfish, insecure little monster who took all of her anger out on me just like her father. But it wasn't her fault. She learned it from him. I let her learn it from him. I knew that. But knowing that didn't make it any easier for me. It definitely didn't make her behave any better. And the worse she got, the meaner her father got. I did everything I wasn't supposed to do. I already told you that. But he did it worse. So much worse. No wonder my baby girl was turning into a monster. But she didn't have to be a monster. Just like me, she had the potential for perfection. But just like me, no one had ever shown her what to do. I was a good mom in my heart. Just a victim of circumstances. I thought, if I changed my circumstances, I'd be a better mother, which would make Amber a better daughter. That's why I left her father. I knew leaving would make everything better. It didn't. No matter what I did, nothing got better. It only got worse. And Amber was too horrible for the babysitters, so I couldn't keep a job. It was out of job. I couldn't keep an apartment. I had no choice. I had to beg my mother to let me come home. My mother told me I was the problem, that I was the reason Amber was so horrible because she needed to escape me. And one day she told me that she had solved Amber's problem once and for all by calling Amber's father. I didn't think he'd come, really. In fact, I knew he wouldn't come. He hated Amber. He hated me. He hated us. But he came to get her anyway. I didn't stop him. I didn't know how. No one ever showed me how. How can you do anything when you don't know how? Amber didn't want to go with him, but she listened when I said she had to. As he led her outside, she looked back at me. I could tell she was hoping I would come with her, and she didn't look away until she reached the door. I think that's when she knew I wasn't going to follow, because the hope in her eyes went away. The light in her died as I watched. And then my dark, lightless little girl said to me, "Bye-bye, Mommy." I knew I'd made a mistake. I knew it. And I was so sorry. I spent 3 months trying to get her back, but her father wouldn't let me. He trespassed me from his house. He filed for custody. His mother told horrible stories about me and lies about things I did to Amber. She even told the court I was using drugs, but I wasn't. I wasn't. I thought of Amber all the time. I remembered how perfect she could be, especially on days that we snuggled and had tea parties and went to the playground and curled her hair. I loved her hair, how soft and smooth, and the way it shone in the sun like strands of light. I dreamed about her too. Wonderful dreams, where we lived in a beautiful sunny house in the country with a giant backyard and orchards and a dog. She always wanted a dog. And the most delicious food for every single meal. Those dreams felt so real. More real than real. But one night I had the worst dream I've ever had. It was about Amber. She wasn't perfect in the dream. She was scared. She was hurt. She was emaciated and crying as this horde of laughing monsters smothered her. It felt real, more real than real, more real than even the perfect dreams. And when I woke up, I called the police. I told a lie. I said my daughter had drowned in her father's pool. They didn't have a pool. But I knew it would make the ambulance come faster. And then I drove over to her father's house, and I remember watching the clock. It took me exactly 37 minutes. By the time I got there, she was dead. She had been dead a whole day. I saw her body as they were bringing it out. I can't. They brought her father's mother out in handcuffs, but he wasn't in handcuffs. Even though this was all his fault, he wasn't in handcuffs.
Clearly, the father is a monster, and the the grandma's a monster too, because they brought her out in handcuffs. Which I'm honestly thinking, the way I read this is that it's obviously both their faults, but I believe that the husband is, or the ex-husband is shifting blame onto his grandmother. I left her with her. She was supposed to watch her, you know. But also in all this, and it's so sad because I do empathize with Bye Bye Mommy at this part, or I think her name's Roxanne. When she was a human, her name was Roxanne. Horrible, right? Terrible. I couldn't imagine. But then also, I do wonder, because clearly the daughter died with the father, right? That's not really in dispute. That's like a forensic fact, right? But I do wonder, like, was it all made up? Because clearly she couldn't handle her daughter all the time. She'd lock her daughter away when she was a baby, stuff like that. And then even as she got older, you know, I don't know if all the abuse, like, they kind of hint at, like, that they levied, like, sexual abuse allegations against Roxanne. I don't know if I fully buy that, but I am at the same time of, like, you just admitted to, like, starving her for a day and doing stuff like that. So I'm like, so what are you not admitting to that you might have done in your worst times? And I do believe that Roxanne wanted to be a good mother and wanted to do better, but she was also a victim of circumstance, but also of her own delusions, and that she would, you know, tell herself that, you know, oh, I need to be a good mom and I need to do X for my daughter, or, you know, this or that. And she could convince herself, she could do enough mental gymnastics to convince herself that, like, you know, feeding her today, not feeding her for a day is a good thing. And then a day turns into a week or whatever, you know, who knows? Just like she convinced herself that to let the father take her away. Well, I didn't know what to do, you know, and stuff like that. And the whole, how do you know what to do if you don't know, you know? And it's kind of that thing. It's like the whole, incompetent defense of, you know, well, I didn't know what to do. And it's like, you know, not knowing how to do something isn't always an excuse not to do it. You know, there's a lot of things in life that we don't know exactly how to do, but that when the situation calls for it, we're pretty much, at least by society, we're expected to do, you know? And so, yeah, it's like, you know, you figure it out. You put the pieces together. You go get a lawyer. You get your daughter back, you know? Especially when the father is, you know, that abusive, or you start calling child, you know, maybe not just call child services on him, sort of a thing, but you push for visits with your daughter to make sure your daughter's okay. You know, I don't know. You know, there's blame enough in this story, in this case, I'm gonna call it, even, to go around, right? And I certainly don't trust the Bye Bye Mommy's framing of all of this, but I do. It's because of how well the voice acting is done. I do feel that, you know, her desire to be a good mother is genuine. And it just goes to show, it's something I've heard a lot throughout my life, but it just goes to show, it's like some people should not have kids, or should not, you know, not be allowed to have kids at 15. Like, this woman, had she had more time to mature and maybe went through a few bad relationships where she dated these shitty guys, and then, you know, and then realized how, you know, to find somebody that treated her good, that treated her the way she maybe not deserved to be treated, but that, you know, but that anybody deserves to be treated. You know, no one deserves to be abused and verbally abused and yelled at and stuff like her husband did. And so if she had more time, it's like later in life, you know, she might have made even a good mother, or she possibly would have had a chance at least to be, you know what I'm saying? But because of these circumstances and her own delusions, and it's not like, I don't know, she will take some blame, but it's like she won't take enough blame, you know, and that's kind of where the problem lies for the Bye Bye Mommy, and where you just have to wonder. And the fact that she became this supernatural entity, but then goes on to just let her delusions kill all these kids, because the way she sees it, she's rescuing them and she's taking them to a beautiful place, right, where they eat snow cones and whatever, which is great because the kids do love it in the moment. We'll see that. But the fact is that it's not reality. So you can, you know, take your kids or your loved ones, you can show them the most beautiful fantasy world in the world and try to give them that as much as you want. But, and if that's, you know, all you could give them, I understand, you know, like wanting to just do that. But if it's not reality, if it's causing them to literally starve to death, if that's the result, then, you know, I mean, it's monstrous, you know, at the end of the day. And so I think, you know, we have to, when you think about the Bye Bye Mommy, you have to think about like her perception of herself, and the fact that she even sees herself as a savior is what makes her ultimately a monster. You know, because like take Numa for instance. In comparison, Numa has no delusions about really what he is. He views himself as a gluttonous feral animal who just wanted to kill humans because they hurt his pup and because they abandoned him. You know, and that is what he did, and that's the way he saw himself. Whereas the Bye Bye Mommy still sees herself as, I could finally be that good mother that I never could be for my daughter, when in actuality you're just killing a bunch of kids. So, you know, it's just interesting that her desire to see herself and to be narcissistic enough to see herself as a good mother when she wasn't, or she's not, that narcissism is what makes her a monster. And if she would just accept the fact that she wasn't able to save her daughter, and that she isn't a savior, and that she probably shouldn't have kids, or, you know, wasn't, or that at the very least she just isn't a good mother, if she could accept that fact, she probably wouldn't be a monster, or at least wouldn't have done so many monstrous things after she died, you know. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's such a, again, it's such an interesting thing, because you can you can hear in the voice actor's performance, you can hear the desire is so there to be loved and to love her daughter and be loved in return, and it's like, well, sometimes that desire is not enough. Sometimes it matters what happens too, and if nothing good happens for your daughter, then can you say, you're a good mother? I don't know. In these circumstances, obviously, I'm only saying that. Obviously, bad things can happen to kids or to parents or whatever that are outside of their control. But with her, it matters, in my opinion. What happened in her life was tragic, but it matters even more what she did after she died, and that that is what makes her the ultimate monster. Because she could have went and rescued kids and like teleports them away and uses her glamour powers, and she could have dropped them off at the CPS building or brought them to a new family. She could have been like some stork where she finds really nice, deserving parents who are deserving of children and brings them, kids who are orphans or are, what I mean, in need of a family. She could have done something like that, but instead she teleports them away and keeps them in some derelict building out in the middle of nowhere and has them eat bark and stuff and just glamours them. And in the moment, they love it. They think it's ice cream and lollipops and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, the kids are just starving, eating bark. So brutal.
I have never been so angry. And I will never be so angry again. I launched myself at him with everything I had. He hit back hard enough to make my face explode. My eyesight turned red, and then it went dark. I felt my bones and splinters of bones grinding in my face, but none of that mattered. All that mattered was my rage. I got up and I hit him again. This time he grabbed me and forced me across the yard, out into the street, and threw me down right as the ambulance with my daughter's body sped off, and it hit me. Everything exploded then, and I went to sleep. I woke up in a house, the brightest, biggest, cleanest house, flooded with sunlight, and there were orchards in the back, greenhouses too, a swing set in the yard, and even a dog and a small white cat. I've always wanted a small white cat. It was perfect. Beyond perfect, the perfect house from all my dreams, with everything I could ever want. Everything, that is, except children to live in it. I don't remember how I found my new daughter. Isn't that strange? All I remember are voices yelling. A woman yelling at this tiny crying girl. I found my new daughter at a playground in tears, while her angry mother packed up a stroller. You don't want to come home? Fine, said the angry mother. You stay here and play. I'm going home without you. It made me smile, because I knew what to do now. I knew how to be a good mother. That meant I could show this lady how to be a good mother, demonstrate the error of her ways. I could teach her to be better. But why? Why show her when no one had shown me? In the end, I had to live with my choices, so it was only fair that this woman would have to live with hers. So I went to the little girl, while her useless mother ranted and raged and threw things into her awful little car. The girl was scared of me at first, and she even opened her mouth to scream, and without thinking, I took her hand in mine, and her scream turned to giggles. don't be scared, I soothed. What's your favorite food? Cupcakes, she said shyly. So I told her, I have cupcakes at my house. 100 cupcakes in every flavor ever. Would you like to go eat them now? Of course, she nodded, and she gave me that perfect, shy smile of hers. I was so happy, but one of the qualities of a good mother is politeness, so I told her, we'll go right now, but first, say goodbye to your mummy, just so she doesn't worry. Her perfect smile went away, which broke my heart, but she was obedient. Good kids are always obedient, and she was so good. She turned to her mother and said, "Bye-bye, Mommy." The woman didn't even notice. She didn't even notice her own baby. That was all the proof I needed to know she didn't deserve her daughter. But I did. So I took the girl by the hand, her tiny, soft, trusting hand, and brought her home. Dinner was already on the table when we arrived. Roast chicken, smoked turkey, a spiral-cut ham, buttery bread sending tendrils of steam into the golden air, vegetables and fresh fruit, and more milk than we could ever need, and a buffet of desserts on the counter. She ate so much. I'd never seen a child eat so much. I wondered if Amber would eat that much, if she'd been there. When I thought of Amber, my heart hurt. When my heart hurt, the house changed. The light broke apart and bled darkness. The walls fell in against themselves, showing nothing but trees and deadfall. The moon replaced the sun, dim and sick and awful. Worst of all was the food. The turkey and the chicken and all the vegetables and desserts were gone, replaced with clods of dirt and moss crawling with ants, and my little girl began to cry. Twigs and dirt and crumbled leaves came tumbling out of her mouth, and she started to choke. I reached for her, but she recoiled. She tried to scream, but all that came out was a whistle, and her little face was already turning purple. And in that instant, I saw Amber's face, my old daughter, superimposed over the new. And I knew what I had to do. I had to forget. I had to forgive myself. It's the only way to start fresh, to be the mother I'm meant to be. So that's what I did. I pushed Amber out of my mind. I cleared away all of the old, all of the regrets and scars and failures, and made room for the new. My heartbreak faded, and with it the panic, and the walls came back, and so did the sun, and most importantly, so did the food. And the little girl was still choking, and I reached into her mouth, expecting to extract twigs or bugs or something even worse, and my fingers touched something hard and slick, and I steeled myself and pulled out a chicken bone. Brown from the oven, slick with saliva. Dangerous. But at least it wasn't a twig. My new daughter finished her dinner. She didn't eat dessert with a previous enthusiasm, but that was to be expected after her ordeal. Once she finished, I helped her brush her teeth. A new toothbrush appeared in the bathroom like it was waiting for her. She put on her fresh pajamas and laid down to sleep. She was the perfect daughter, and I was the perfect mother. We had such a lovely time. Golden hours, golden days. It should have been perfect, and it almost was. Only something was still missing. And one day, as I watched my perfect new daughter playing alone in my perfect orchard, I realized what it was. A brother. So that night,
In my perfect orchard. A brother. So creepy. And like, you can hear it's such good voice acting because you could hear when the illusion drops. First of all, when she like fully becomes, when she's just telling her story of her life, different, more realistic voice. Then when she becomes the bye-bye mommy, it's this creepy old lady voice with this colorful, like, affectations to everything. And then when the illusion starts to break, and she realizes, like, the horror of the situation that she's put this little girl in, it's just so good. And then, yeah, and then back to it. And so I had to forget her. You know, it's such a powerful performance by this voice actress. And again, okay, here, yeah, Rachel Cowan, shout out, amazing voice actress. Yeah, and R.C. Bowman as Agent Rochelle Bean. Great job too. I mean, you know, just in terms of this one kind of episode, but yeah, it's so funny how, like, with the moment, like, it back in the park where she's like, I knew then what I had to do. I had to show her the error of her ways. And she was like, oh, she's about to, you know, it's like she had that opportunity to be a different kind of entity where she instead teaches the parents, like, hey, you know, your children are precious and you're mad and, you know, whatever, but you need to chill the fuck out, and they're just a kid and you're the adult, you know what I mean? But instead of that, which I don't know how that would have went, I don't know what she, you know, as the bye-bye, with the same bye-bye mommy powers, I don't know what she could have done, you know, but instead she's like, but nobody helped me, and so why should I help them? You know, it's that pettiness, it's that like unwillingness to change and to help other people change, and instead it's like, I'm just gonna take her child, you know. And so then she takes her, and it's that there is a bit of a crossroads moment where we see where maybe she could have went down a different path, you know, that I find very interesting. And then the whole idea of like, I had to forget. I had to forgive myself. I had to forget my daughter, you know, to save this other little girl. And it's like, well, maybe in the moment, but I'm pretty sure she's still choking on twigs. You know, she's probably just a corpse at this point, and you're just you're just still have yourself under this glamour where you think she's alive, you know. And so it's like the narcissism's causing her to just learn the wrong lessons over and over rather than, you know, try something new or try something different or take responsibility even, you know. It's a very fascinating like character study, you know. And that's one thing I love about this series is that through their own stories you get to see these faults kind of arise and morph them and turn them into their monstrous entity selves, you know what I mean? And we even hear that through the voice acting, you know, it's so cool.
After I tucked her in bed and made sure she was sleeping soundly, I went to find my son. While I was out, I heard so much. So many screaming mothers, so many bellowing fathers. And the children, I heard their sniffles and their wails. I felt the tears sliding down their faces as if they were my own. And I wanted to save them all. But I knew somehow that they weren't mine to save. Not yet. A mother always knows her children, and I knew that I would know mine the moment I found him. I did. I found him at a bowling alley. Isn't that serendipitous? He was struggling with a bowling ball. He dropped it on his foot and began to cry. His mother rolled her eyes and yelled at him. Yelled at her poor crying little boy who only wanted comfort. She didn't want to give him comfort, but I did. Good mothers always want to comfort their children. I swept in while she complained. I dried his tears and told him to come with me. Well, he didn't want to until I took his hand, and those quivering lips turned into a smile. And just like that, he was ready to come home. And before we go, I told him, wave and say, bye-bye, Mommy. Of course, he said, bye-bye, Mommy. You wouldn't possibly understand, but it was important for him to say the words. It gave his mother one last chance to come to her senses, a chance to take her child back, a chance to pass a final test and be the mother he needed. She failed. And by failing, she made sure those words cut her bond with him. This needed to happen so that he could forge a bond with me, his new mother. My new daughter was overjoyed when she woke up in the morning to her new brother. They got along perfectly, just as I knew they would. A mother always knows these things. We had a wonderful, perfect day filled with playtime and crafts and games and food, of course. A magnificent feast of all their favorite foods, turkey sandwiches and potato chips, macaroni and cheese and mashed potatoes, fried chicken and hot dogs, and every dessert that you can imagine. That night, as I watched them sleep, my heart swelled. I'd done it. I was the perfect mother, just like I knew I could be. The best mother any child could dream for. So why shouldn't I have more children? After all, there were so many. So many. I'd seen them on my way to get my son. All the ones I'd left behind when I chose my son. How could a perfect mother leave any child behind? My heart ached for them. And when my heart aches, my home falls apart. But I recognized the signs this time. I felt the fault line in my heart as it began to open before my walls could fall, before the moon could die and my food turned to rot and ruin. I set out to find my third child. Secretly, I was worried. My heart was already so full and big. It felt like if it got any bigger or any fuller, it would burst, or that I would simply not have enough love, or that I would be overwhelmed with my old daughter, that when this third child came, I would turn back into a bad mother. But I should have known better. I should have believed in myself, because everyone says your heart makes room for each new child, and they're right. That's how I knew that I had more children out there. They were waiting for me. I could feel it in my heart. So I went to find them one by one. I brought them home with me, one by one. They grew up one by one. They grew old one by one. And they died one by one. That was the hardest part. My only solace was that they died as they lived. Happy, safe in my care, secure in my love. And besides, I'd learned my lesson long ago. To welcome the new, you must get rid of the old. If an old daughter dies, it just means it's time to find a new one. When you people found me, you took my children away. All of them. Even the ones who have passed on. That made me angry. So angry for so long. You know, if you'd taken Amber away, I probably would have understood because I wasn't living up to my potential then. I wasn't a good mother, but I am now. I am. And you still took all my children away. But even though I'm still angry, I have forgiven you. It just means I have room for new children now. Isn't that wonderful? It is. It's wonderful because I am a wonderful mother now, a fantastic mother. I am a perfect mother. I am. I can show you. Let me show you. Just take my hand. That's all you have to do. Sweetheart, just take my hand. Just like that. That's right. Take my hand and we'll go home. Just take my hand and we'll go home.
Roxanne, let go of me. Let go. Let go. Charlie? Charlie? Charlie!
That interview
Why
went
the
sideways.
fuck was...
And then this part, and I remember this from my first watch through. This is really fun too. The aftermath, the cleanup, and it really it kind of pulls back the curtain on the agency and shows that they're not some, like, there are powerful, smart people working at the agency, but like human incompetence just runs rampant in every organization and every whatever. And so it's very obvious from this whole part that we're about to listen to that is apparent in the Agency of Helping Hands. And then it makes you, it really makes you realize the level of propaganda that we had, like even in the first little trailer of the Agency of Helping Hands is the only thing that stands between you and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, we are the only ones that can do anything. And you would be defenseless without us, you know, which maybe is true to some extent, but then also it's like, if this is how the agency operates, then, you know, it has plenty of holes for monsters to get through, you know what I mean? Like it's not some perfect wall that keeps all the bad things out, you know? It is just as incompetent and makes mistakes just like any other human or any other human organization.
Was a T-Class agent alone with that? Why the fuck was a T-Class agent alone with that thing, Charlie? What the hell were you thinking?
Rochelle, look at me. How are you feeling?
Charlie, what happened?
Well, look who finally decided to wake up.
Holy shit. Who is that?
Rochelle, calm down.
I'm perfectly calm, Charlie. I just want to know who he is and what he's doing here.
It's just Christoph, Rochelle. He works here, just like you. He's here to recapture the Bye-Bye Mommy.
Where did she go?
She escaped. Thanks to you. But don't worry. You can make it up to me later. Come close, and I'll tell you how.
Do not come any closer, please.
Oh, look who's afraid of the big bad wolf.
Rochelle, calm down. He's kidding. It's okay. Calm down. Christoph, you shut up right now or I'll put you back in your cell.
His cell? Did you just say his cell?
You're not putting him anywhere unless you could track down that fucking child-killing bitch yourself!
We'll find her, Raphael. You know we will. We know where her hunting grounds are. It'll take Christoph a day to find her. Maybe less.
A day? I'll track her stench across the state in an hour.
Christoph, don't talk about other inmates like that.
Oh, like what? I'm only telling the truth. She reeks. I won't be able to get her smell out of my nose for a month. Oh, shit. You know what? I'll put myself back in my cell as long as I don't have to smell her ever again.
What do you mean a cell? Are you an inmate?
Guilty. Of that and many, many other things.
Then why are you out? It's not allowed. Inmates can't be out of their cells, so...
Are you an idiot or just untrained? I can't fix the first, but I can help you fix the second. You might even like it, if I let you.
What did you just say? Charlie, is he an inmate or not?
Of course he's an inmate, but he's T-class, just like you.
What is T-class?
You did not read your handbook? Naughty.
What handbook?
Are you telling me you sent a T-class agent to talk to a child killer with fucking magic powers alone? Without even making sure she read her goddamn handbook!
Rochelle, is this true?
Is what true?
That you haven't read your employee handbook?
What handbook?
Did you or did you not receive an employee handbook?
No.
Charlie, why didn't she receive an employee handbook?
I ordered one for her, I think.
For which class?
T-class?
Oh, really? Are you sure about that?
Yes.
You know, that's funny because there are no T-class handbooks. They get V2 class handbooks, which you would know if you actually ordered one. Rochelle.
See, and this is what I find funny is Charlie Wingeride's this doctor, supposed to be this psychologist extraordinaire, right? But then in this part, it completely like throws that veil off and makes me think that I'm like, this guy seems like an idiot. Also, you know, I was confused a little bit maybe in some of my first listen throughs as to who was who in each part. So now I remember that, oh, Dr. Charlie Wingeride is the one who forgot to order the handbook, and so and like didn't really even train Agent Bean, and so obviously they're, in my opinion, they blame Agent Bean for the fuck up, but they're like, but in my opinion, it's completely 1,000% Agent Charles or Dr. Charlie Wingeride's fault. And then also Commander Raphael Wingeride is, I guess maybe they're brothers or they're related. I think there's a backstory there that we haven't gotten to yet, which I'm just seeing now looking at the cast and all that stuff. Christoph Wolf, love. the big bad wolf. Christian Dennis kills it. Norman Dearborn as Raphael Wingeride. Yeah, they're all great. I do have to say, the Dr. I don't know how old this Dr. Charlie Wingeride's supposed to be, but the voice actor, I don't know. I don't want to critique anyone too hard because I do love the series, but one thing I notice is that it does seem like the Dr. Charles voice, it's kind of like put upon, like they're trying to sound, like they're trying to sound older, or, I don't know, like they're using a deeper voice than maybe they're normally used to using or something. I don't know. I'm not a voice actor. I want to be. I would like to get into voice acting, obviously, but so I'm not going to critique it too hard. It's just something that I found myself. I don't know if takes me out of the series is the right word, but it made me confused as to who that character was. Like when she keeps calling her Charlie or him Charlie, and then, and yeah, when Agent Bean keeps calling him like Charlie, I was like, oh, this is just somebody who's at the agency, like another agent, right? But then we know that Charlie is Dr. Charles Wingeride, who is supposedly her superior, as well as like a therapist extraordinaire or something, is what it was, is what they were described as in the first one. But Agent Bean states that, like, but I know that was a lie. They said I'd be able to, if I studied under him and blah, 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 I'd even be able to get my degree and I'd get my freedom back and all this stuff. But I knew it was all a lie. So again, maybe that's just like the agency, lying about its own agents and people's like certifications. Maybe that's what kind of the episode is trying to show, in which case I think it makes a lot more sense to have the person who plays Dr. Charles, or just even the character of Dr. Charles, seem like this incompetent kind of like put upon, like, well, I've got it all together, but I think I ordered a handbook and all, you know what I mean? Like, cause I feel like if Dr. Charles was even, or Charlie Wingeride was even a more competent liar, he would be like, yes, I gave Agent Bean the handbook. They must not have read it. And Agent Bean's like, you didn't give me the handbook. And they're like, oh, she's lying. Just like even something like that would have been, but yeah. So anyways, I just, a little bit of a note there, but not even like really a criticism, more just of like, confusion that I had when first listening to it, that I was like, wait, is that the doctor that's like supposed to like run the prison, or like be in charge of like the whole psychological interview part of the prison, and yeah, it just interesting, but great like example of how all of a sudden the fact that she wakes up to a big bad wolf in her face, like Agent Bean is like, you're not supposed to be out of your cell and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, clearly they know almost nothing about their new job and where they're at. And then it's just funny to have all these characters be like, well, you better get caught up, because this is how fast things move here. So you better get up to speed, otherwise you're going to get left behind. I like it. I really, I enjoyed this whole back and forth between them all. You know, it's very fun. It's a fun way to have her wake up from her like assault from the Bye Bye Mommy, because it's like, not only did she go into this interview, but like she was doing her job. She was supposed to interview her, and she didn't grab the Bye Bye Mommy's hand. It sounds like the Bye Bye Mommy just like jumped on her and touched her, you know, which obviously like the agent shouldn't have let happen, but she never should have been alone in a room with her anyways. And no one ever told her or gave her like her handbook for her to know that like, hey, if this entity starts to seem like it's trying to touch you, you probably need to like end the interview or run away or whatever, you know. Yeah, it's just funny.
We were supposed to talk tomorrow, you and I. But now you've got yourself in trouble. I don't think they'll let you. Too bad. I was looking forward to it.
Christoph, leave her the fuck alone!
What? I am only making friendly conversation.
Just get her out of here, Charlie. She's about to piss her pants. And get her a goddamn V2 handbook!
Come with me, Rochelle. Let's just
run away from the big bad wolf, huh?
You're not a wolf, and I am not running away from you.
Rochelle, come on.
Oh. Au revoir, Rachel.
Shut up. So, I don't know what to call this. An audio log, I guess. A disciplinary statement. I don't know. I just know I'm required to make it because Charlie, Dr. Wingeride, said I have to because doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Dr. Wingeride got me out of the interview room and escorted me back to my quarters after Roxanne, the Bye Bye Mommy, escaped on my watch. He also got me a V2 class handbook. And of course, that's a good thing. Well, no, it's a bad thing, but I'm under disciplinary review for letting the Bye Bye Mommy escape, which means I'm confined to quarters until administration decides what to do with me, and that means I have a lot of free time in which to read this goddamn handbook. Which I've been doing. And it's fucked up. I'm sorry, I know this is an official log and whatever, but this handbook is all kinds of fucked up. Nothing is more fucked up than the section on employee classifications. I'll be honest, they scare me. They more than scare me. They prove I am in the most massive trouble of my life. See, ever since coming to the agency, I thought I was like a secret agent or something. Like, I know I'm here under duress and everything, but I don't know what I thought. I just know I thought wrong. I also know that I am fucked. To prove my point, allow me to reference this batshit excerpt on agent classifications. Agent classifications. As an agent assigned to the Agency of Helping Hands, North American Specialized Containment Unit, or AHH-NASCU, your classification is either a voir dire, or V2 class, or a member of the Pantheon, or P class. While you serve as the first line of defense and the first point of contact for all inmates in your ward, you are only a small part of the agency as a whole. Your position at the Pantheon requires you to routinely work with agency personnel of differing classes because multiple agents and divisions work together on different inmates all the time. Therefore, it is important for you to understand the differing agent classifications, their purpose, and circumstances that require their assistance. The first class we will discuss is Argonaut, also known as A-Class. Argonauts are field agents whose scope of duties most closely resemble that of traditional law enforcement agencies. They are typically considered monster hunters. Their primary duty is to assure capture and containment of agency targets at any cost. The next class we will discuss are the Varangians, or V-Class. Varangians are undercover agents who infiltrate institutions and communities to protect people from agency-involved threats. Their primary duty is to protect human beings at any cost. The next class up for discussion is the Vardir, or V2 class. These are agents who are caretakers of inmates. They're essentially prison guards, as well as other staff assigned to AHH in ASCU. Their primary goal is to prevent containment breach at any cost. The next classification is the PAN, or P-Class. P-Class are the agency's medical division. It includes doctors, surgeons, nurses, and other personnel who treat agency employees and inmates. Their primary duty is to provide care to all individuals associated with or incarcerated in NASCU at any cost. And that brings us to the TC, or T-Class agents. T-Class agents are agents with abilities that require dynamism classification. In other words, agents whose abilities necessitate incarceration at the Pantheon. Once identified, they're required to either join the agency or submit to termination. TC function similarly to K9 units, and are always partnered with an Argonaut or a Varangian. When not in the field, T-Class agents are housed inside NASCU to ensure their continued compliance with agency directives. Their primary duty is the protection of their Argonaut or Varangian partner at any cost. Failure to perform their duties will result in termination. And there's no two ways about it. I'm screwed. And you know what, Charlie? Assuming you ever actually listen to this, you can go straight to hell. Good night.
I love that that's how it ends too. And what's fun is that I like that the beginning starts with the bye bye mommy and ends with Agent Bean's circumstances, because in that part it lays it out in black and white and no unclear terms that they are incarcerated at the facility, so they're living at the facility. They're not even necessarily allowed to leave or to go out in the field. Maybe they will be in the future, but essentially maybe they'll get a partner at some point. And maybe Dr. Charlie is that partner. We don't quite know yet. But that they are kind of seem to be the lowest class, or if not straight up lower, they definitely, their only objective is to protect their whatever and to probably stop like inmate breaches and stuff like that. And so it's just very clear that at the end of that our agent is just a person or an agent with useful skills who is a prisoner, you know what I mean? So they're like, we want to use you, but we also want to keep you under lock and key, because you have these useful skills that could be a problem for us, and so we want to keep a very close eye on you, and we also want you to know that if you do anything we don't want you to do, that we're going to kill you, you know? And so it's like, oh, great, you know, I thought I was going to be like a secret agent cop, but now I'm, you know, basically just a prisoner who interviews other prisoners, you know, it's like a prisoner psychiatrist, kind of like how they have like jailhouse lawyers, you know. She's basically just like a fellow prison psychiatrist, prisoner psychiatrist. And I think that's a very fun kind of reveal. And I do think that the series will maybe evolve to have her like reach other classifications, or she'll be maybe they'll come up where she'll be like an Argonaut T class, where maybe she'll be an agent that goes out in the field with an Argonaut, or whatever, where she has these abilities, but the Pantheon kind of trusts her to carry out their directive, so to speak, you know? And so I really, I'm excited for Agent Bean, to kind of get comfortable with her job, and once she gets her footing within the Pantheon rise, because this is the other thing too, is her power is very useful for like this sort of work. And like in her other job, she got, you know, she just kept moving up until she eventually moved too high. But now she's there, so I imagine we're gonna get a similar sort of thing where, yes, she messed up, the Bye Bye Mommy got out, but it also wasn't really her fault. And I think it's going to start on this sour note, because she's going to kind of start kicking ass. And so it's the story's way of like, you know, kind of humanizing her before she just really starts. Because my thinking is she's just going to start getting everyone to talk, helping capture and maybe even rehabilitate entities and stuff like that. I think it's going to be like, she's going to very quickly, and then again, she's going to go too deep, or she's going to rehabilitate the wrong thing, or something's going to happen where, she helps an entity or a fellow agent that some other agency personnel doesn't want her to, and then, you know, that's when it's gonna turn into a full shitstorm. But I'm super excited to see where it goes. Obviously, we have a few more episodes, but I knew we probably wouldn't get to them all today in the stream, but I wanted to just start and try to get to as many as we could. So now we've covered obviously the trailer, Numa, the Bye Bye Mommy. So next we have Baby Girl, and then the Harlequin, which I think they might have changed the order a little bit, because looking at the story list, it goes, it goes Harlequin, then Baby Girl, then Bag Lady. But I think they might have done Baby Girl earlier. And so but I look forward to, I will probably stream the rest at a later date. The Bag Lady is amazing. I really did want to get to the Bag Lady, but we need to listen to each episode as it comes, because the series really does a good job of drip feeding some information and building on itself, and I don't want to go out of order. So I imagine, whether it's on the next few streams, or maybe I can plan a weeknight stream where we could just listen to more episodes. But that is the plan as of right now. And then I'll still do my normal streams where I keep reading stories. And that'll be on the weekend. Or maybe what we'll do is, like, you know, we'll start each of my streams with an episode, and then we'll read stories or whatever. But it's not going to be forever. I'm not going to listen to every episode on stream, but I did maybe kind of want to do the first, whatever that is, like 5 or 6, just to really just to show why I love the series so much, and why I'm getting into it so much in my free time, and why I think you should get into it. Because ultimately, yes, I want to react and maybe like critique the series where I can find reasons to, although I haven't found any yet, really. But the main thing that I want to do is just get more people into it, because it's awesome and it's only just getting started. That's the other cool thing, is I feel like I found it at the perfect time where I was like, oh wow, this is just beginning. And yeah, it's so far it's been a really fun ride, and I think some of the coolest origin story, because each episode is an origin story. That's what's so fun. But some of the coolest paranormal origin stories like ever, and they all, from every one that I've heard, they all like make sense. They all like have emotional depth to them. You know what I mean? It's just it's so hard to have a banger sort of villain like that, or like villains as they exist in this series. And in my opinion, it's just nothing but back to back to back bangers. And even like the Harlequin, which they don't necessarily know what it is, like it's a more mystique sort of a thing. They don't quite understand the origin stories, but even entities like that they're really fun and interesting. So and the Bag Lady, this one just blew me away this week, where it was like, it was so unique and interesting, and like just made sense for a person, who's been put through the ringer to essentially, do what this woman does. Because we kind of get a similar story to the Bye Bye Mommy, in that it's somebody who like lost a child, or their child physically went missing, and instead of like becoming, she becomes a monster in her own way, but she's actually punishing the people that deserve it, like the child predators and traffickers and stuff like that. And so in my opinion, she is more of just like a straight vigilante, paranormal, like, superhero entity. And so that I find just so interesting, and I'm really hoping that as the series goes on, some of these entities, like, we get to see them like flourish. And we know Kristoff is the big bad wolf, is gonna hunt down the Bye Bye Mommy. So I hope we get to see or hear, those stories of how that stuff is done and what happens in the field. Although I do think I do think mostly it's gonna stick with the format of interviews. But that's going to be fun, because then I think what's going to happen is Agent Bean's going to interview like Argonaut agents, and is going to, hear, well, man, or whatever upper, the agency wants to know what happened on this mission. And so we're going to get to hear it all from another agent's perspectives, which is going to be really fun. Because these documents where they're just like files or recountings of what happens, but they're just kind of, they're kind of procedural and, like that. Like, those are fun too. But I like both. I like to hear a story from a unique, like, narrator's perspective, and I think we're gonna get both, and I'm really excited for it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the North American Pantheon. Please, 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 if you do nothing else, go subscribe to it. Go read the stories on Dopabeane Substack. Go subscribe to the North American Pantheon on Reddit. Go follow, join this Reddit. They post updates. I posted that I was going live. Fan art, all sorts of good stuff. Clearly, there are a lot more characters. Aurora Cortez, we don't even know who that is yet. But clearly the series gets more fleshed out, and it becomes the just just as much about the agency and the personnel within it as the monsters within the Pantheon or the entities, which is very fun. I love the dynamic, so I'm stoked. I am really enjoying the universe of NAP so far. Well, I'm glad you are, Rude Dude. Have you been listening to it, or have you just listened to it on my stream? Because I'm completely caught up. I'm wondering if you're completely caught up, because it's great to the point where I'm probably gonna have to read ahead because I'm dying to know what happens. And that's how you know it's a great series. But that is the North American Pantheon, and everybody should check it out and subscribe because it's a great series, and clearly they're putting a lot of effort into it. A lot of really talented people are working on it, and we should support them any way we can. And one of the best ways we can do that is to up the subscriber count and up the views on these YouTube videos. So I've heard of it before, but this is my first time diving into it. Awesome. Well, I love that. I love that I could introduce you to it. I hope more people will watch this VOD after it goes up, and we'll get introduced to it too, because it really is, in my opinion, like, I've been fishing because I've watched a lot of like Wendigoon's videos about like, Mandela Catalog or whatever else, and like Creep TV, the Gemini Home Entertainment Creep TV just came out. That was great. But I've been fishing for like a new analog series to get into, or a new something that I can do other than just read online, but something that I can get into that's like internet horror, so to speak, or analog horror. And while this isn't straight analog horror or whatever, I do feel like this series has really filled that void for me, and has like just really invigorated me to get into it, to make content about it, to get into like, voice acting and other stuff. I really want to try to do, because it's just the fact that there could be a series that has existed online for a long time. This is not a brand new series. This has been out for a long time, but that's just sitting there, that not that many people have heard about, that's just been sitting there waiting for even an audio show to get made of it, is just, it's crazy to me. And it's so much fun that I get to kind of be here for the audio series coming out, and to enjoy it, on stream and off stream. It has been fantastic. So thank you so much to like RC Bowman, Dopabeane, for writing it, for creating it, and to everyone who works on the team on the audio series. Just hats off to you. Like, fantastic job. I've been so surprised by like the quality of the voice acting and everything. It's just really made me like, just really, really excited and happy, because like the fact that a story like this is just being made, and being made into a new format for a new audience is really it really inspires me, because I love audiobooks. I love audio productions, whether that's on like Audible or just on YouTube for people. I think that it's a really underrated way to enjoy content. I think not enough people like realize how much you can get out of an audio series. It's really good. Like, you can get just as much fulfillment and love for a series that you would out of physically reading like a book or a story online, or seeing it on a screen, because I feel like so much of this, I feel like I have seen. I could see Numa out there on the ice, like petting Pup while he's like picking like a fucking femur out of his jawbones and shit like that, or the way the Bye Bye Mommy, the way her voice was so creepy as she would like mimic these children saying bye bye mommy. It sent shivers down my spine every time. And seeing that the house turn from like all beautiful and wonderful and fairy tale to like dark and twigs and dirt is like it's just so visceral and so fun. So I really cannot the voice acting so far has been really above and beyond expectations. That's kind of my thing. I was like, for just a YouTube series that, like, as far as I know, like, this isn't made by like Sound Booth Theater or like Audible whatever productions. As far as I know, this is just a bootstrapped, like, yes, there's a producer, there's people who work on it, but it's like it's just it's like a lot of YouTube talent. It's a lot of like just independent like voice actors who, just applied or auditioned for the role or however they do it, and they managed to find all this amazing talent. And again, that has not changed like throughout the series. Like, even though they're only a few episodes in, like, it was true of Baby Girl. It was true. Baby Girl is literally a child voice actor, by the way, from what I could tell. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but Harlequin was great. The Bag Lady blew me away. The two, I mean, Numa's great too. They're all great, but I really say the Bag Lady, that story broke my heart just from start to finish. Like, it's been amazing. So please go watch the episodes, watch the new episode when it comes out this weekend, and just support it any way you can, because it's worthy of it. And when people do cool shit like this and just put it up on YouTube for anyone to listen to, I mean, those are the type of creators that are going to take stories and take storytelling and make it great for the next 20 or 30 years, or however long, those are the type of creators that really deserve the support, because, so often something's behind a paywall or something, something is just as like is really cool like this, but it doesn't have the execution there, right? Like, maybe the voice acting's not there, or maybe they just do like a narration where it's just one person narrating the whole series, but instead we get this amazing audio production. And I am super duper a fan, and I'm just grateful to be able to listen to it. Yeah, to be able to stream it, to listen to it, to do it all. So that's pretty much it though for me. So, go subscribe, the North American Pantheon. That's gonna do it. Peace out, Rude Dude. Peace out, Harvey. Anyone else? Adios. Bye bye. Oh, here, we'll play this. Hold on. Cock. Come on, we started with Coca-Cola. I'm pissed off. Like, why is it just not in my... I typed this in earlier. Why is it not in here? There we go.
This song is dedicated to Joan Crawford. It's in the key of wash it out, freak it out, zap it out, hook it out, slife it out, slurp it out, munch it out, punch it out, scrunch it out, and hunch it out, and keep it fragrantly, slurpingly, slarfingly, anteater, tongueably, clean, 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 clean. Clean for the old rope chortle. Rope chortle. Coca-Cola douche. My baby ain't got no money, but her
snatch, it'll taste like a honey, 'cause she makes that Coca-Cola douche. My baby, she a fizzes and she buzzes, but her pussy, it snaps like a turtle, 'cause she makes that Coca-Cola douche.